Hello and welcome to another episode of Video Game Logic. Today's episode was recorded on November the 15th, 2016. I'm your host, Gaming Psychologist, and with me, as always, Mr. Clickles.
Caffeine Rage.
On today's show, we're going to be discussing some permanent changes to the Game Club. We'll, of course, be discussing the games that we played this week. The Steam autumn and winter sales dates have leaked. Is the AAA gaming bubble about to burst? A general topic. Alienware manager makes a comment on the Steam machines, blames Windows 10. Some games run worse on the PS4 Pro. There's a rumor that the Nintendo Switch is going to be £200 in the UK.
Boy, that's heavy.
Watchdogs 2 removes its nudity. We'll have our weekly community corner and our Steam weekly deals discussion. How are you, Rage?
Honestly, a little pissed off. My mouse died today.
Yeah, that's why I called you Mr. Clickles.
Yeah, if anybody wants a Christmas or a birthday present idea, mouse.
Be very careful what you ask for. You might get hundreds of dead mice in the mail.
Cow?
Actually, I'd be worried about getting that from me.
Okay, I should say computer mice.
Hello, computer.
A keyboard. How quaint.
But yeah. How many times have we made that joke?
Not enough.
Yeah, probably not. But many times, that's for sure.
Star Trek, The Voyage Home. One of the better Star Trek movies. Not my favorite, but a good one.
Yeah, I think it's a solid one. It's kind of right there in the middle for me. Like, it's not a bad Star Trek movie, but it's not like a great Star Trek movie. It does better than a couple of the new Star Trek movies. What are you typing away at?
Just responding to something.
Oh, is it from that person?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, may have another bonus episode of the Sunday Sampler coming up.
Nice. Becoming a Mr. Big Shot. Good for you. I'm doing pretty swell this week. I've still got a scratchy throat, and I'm like 99% sure it's because of all of the forest fires and all of the smoke. People who follow us on Twitter may have noticed the picture that Left Stick Down posted in response to a conversation that some of us were having. Pictures comparing the Chattanooga area from last year to this year at this time of year. It's ridiculous how much smoke. And that is smoke. That's not fog. That's not smog, which is pretty similar to smoke. But no, that is smoke from something like 55 forest fires that have been burning for a couple of weeks in the area.
Smokey the Bear is pissed.
He's incredibly pissed. It's a bad time. It's especially bad in the mornings when the sun's coming up and it really highlights how much smoke there is in the air. I mean, you can't see 50 feet in front of you. It's crazy. Just to kind of put it into perspectives that are a little bit more, I think, numerical, understandable, there's this thing called the Air Quality Index that just measures, how good the air is. And they use it to measure, like, pollen and things as well.
Yeah, and when they look at China, they just cry. Yeah.
So it's supposed to be less than 100. 100 is like, this is kind of crappy. Make sure you take your allergy meds. And 300 is when they go, okay, it's time to evacuate this area. It's like a toxic, unhealthy zone. Like, you're getting up there towards Chernobyl. The last couple of days, we've been at like 250. There's people walking around with masks here all the time. It's crazy. There's not any rain in sight in the near forecast.
Yeah.
Although I doubt that there's anybody who listens to this podcast that's on like the Chattanooga
Choo-choo?
Firefighters, emergency response people, but shout out to those guys. They've been doing a really good job keeping those fires contained, keeping it from being worse than it is right now. There's like a constant stream of firefighting helicopters that keep flying overhead in the middle of the day. I'm sure they're going at night too, but I'm not in town in the middle of the night.
Yeah, forest fire smoke is just terrible. When I was in high school, there was a really bad forest fire, probably about 30 or 40 miles away from me. And it just, all the smoke filtered into the valley, and there was just no wind. So it just kind of collected there. And it just looked like this just foggy mess. And because my principal in high school was a idiot, he refused to let out school, and it was just miserable.
Oh, yeah, that's awful.
Yeah, let's just put it this way. Any teacher that had a plant instantly became my favorite. Because it was, knocking enough of the smoke out of the air that, it was actually breathable, the air. Because, just looking out the window, and, you could just, it was like a early PlayStation game, where the draw distance was so short and they had to mask everything with fog.
Yeah, that's actually a really good description of what it's like outside right now.
Yeah, you need to turn your view distance up.
I'll take a picture in the morning, unless by like some miracle the smoke is cleared out by then. I'll take a picture in the morning and tweet it so that everyone can see what it's like outside my house.
Yeah, well, that was the bad thing here. Was wasn't just the fire, but also the fact that there was really no wind to knock the smoke out of the valley, so everything just settled there.
Yeah,
and it made life miserable. Thankfully, I don't have asthma, but it was driving my sinuses absolutely berserk. And the kids that did have asthma, they actually were excused from school, which is actually a rarity. My school system is kind of, or at least they were kind of nuts with attendance. Granted, they didn't give a damn if you were able to pass as a class, but as long as you were there and you were able to keep your body slightly warm, they loved you.
Yeah, my school was kind of the same way.
That, and if you were able to pass standardized testing, which, turns out not many people were able to do that.
Yeah.
Oh, boy, the school system here sucks.
Yep. It's not quite as bad as it used to be here. There's been quite a few improvements made, but it's still not perfect.
Well, the fun part here is that my high school is actually getting shut down in a few years.
Yay.
So,
take that, high school.
Well, they're making it into the middle school because the middle school that I went to was something like a 75-year-old building that was falling down.
Yeah.
And there was entire sections of the school that was just cordoned off that they couldn't use. And it's also this whole thing where everything is built too big here because, there used to be a lot more population here. Something like half the state's population just, moved out because the coal industry just, completely died off because, turns out, dirty, obsolete sources of fuel, that industry tends to die out. And I don't care just how far back Trump tries to set back the country. Coal is not coming back.
Nope.
Boy, we got political already.
Yeah. Welcome to the local portion of the podcast where we tell you about our lives right here in small town USA.
As people quickly fast forward to try to get to the interesting bit, and it turns out that's just the where you say bye-bye.
Well, we need to discuss Game Club before we go any further with this podcast.
Yeah.
So last week we said that we were going to give Skyrim an extra week, and we asked on Twitter
what
question people's
of the week
opinions
last
were.
week was, what changes, if any, would you like to see done with the Game Club? And we had the B team show up and give their responses, both Chemist and Kyle chimed in. Essentially saying, make it essentially once a month. Chemist said, good question. Maybe we should make it every third or even fourth week because we don't get enough regular shows. Which pretty much was what I was saying, that, the Game Club has kind of taken over stuff. And Kyle said, make it a once a month thing, more time to play games, more time to look at news in the off weeks.
Right. So, those were the only two responses we received, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so what I think, what we talked about doing is the last show of the month is going to be the Game Club show, which gives us between 4 and 5 weeks between every episode, depending on...
Yeah, I think February is going to be the shortest, depending on just how the month rolls. It may end up being 3 weeks.
Right.
Yeah, February 2017 will be 3 weeks. So, yeah, but still, that's plenty of time. Unless we're doing Skyrim again. Or a Skyrim-esque game, something large like that.
Yeah. So that was our thought. That was our solution. And we think that that's a good solution. But since we only received 2 responses, we're still open to suggestion, to thought, to criticism. So if you didn't respond to the question of the week, please feel free.
Either tweet us or send us an email, vglpodcast@gmail.com or VGLpodcast on Twitter.
Right. But, after we thought about it and talked about it, we both like the idea of doing it at the end of the month, basically.
Yeah, it'll be the last Tuesday of the month. So for this month, it'll be the 29th.
Right, which will be our next week's recording?
Week after next.
Week after next. Oh, goody. I'll get to play it all through Thanksgiving. We do a lot of stuff at Thanksgiving, but I'm taking one whole day to not do anything. And most of that day will be spent playing games. So
wait, this is different how?
Well, yeah, fair play.
Oh, wait, you're going to be, on a turkey coma. Got it.
Yeah. So, but that's how we're going to operate the Game Club for right now. And if we don't receive any more suggestions, any more feedback, that's just how we're going to start operating. But
yeah, and we haven't forgotten about the poll. We're just waiting until we actually talk about Skyrim to start up the next one to basically restart the cycle. And we do have the game that we're going to be covering for December already picked from the poll.
Right. And
if you want to know what that is, you could always go look.
You could. And of course, like we said before, please continue to send in any feedback, criticism, suggestions you have. And we will...
15 pounds of uranium.
We will take that into consideration. You can do that, like Rach said, by sending us a tweet, sending us an email, be it text or voice, or you can talk to us on Discord. We have a whole suggestions thread on Discord.
Yeah, unfortunately, that Discord link is not easy to just rattle off.
No, because it's just a randomly generated link. You can just go to Discord and search for channels. You can search for Video Game Logic. Or you can find the link in the show notes or on Twitter or
if you give me about 30 seconds on the main page of Video Game Logic Podcast.blogspot.com.
There you go. So, I think that wraps it up for what we needed to announce about Game Club. That means that Skyrim is you still have 2 weeks to play Skyrim and send us in anything that you want. We've already received a couple of Game Club letters from when we were expecting to do it 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, sorry about that. Well, you don't mean to be pulling a Sean Murray and, just delaying.
I don't think that we are Sean Murray's because we haven't received death threats. If we receive death threats, then absolutely, we've gone the full Sean Murray. And I'm not sure how I feel about that, but for now, we're safe. Kyle, that does not mean that you send us in a death threat just to be funny.
Or just groove in a box.
Kyle was texting me earlier about nukes. I won't go into the full depth of our conversation, but nuclear bombs came up. I should say nuclear devices.
He's trying to figure out what to do with the 15 pounds of uranium that he's going to be shipped with Groove. Oh, and nice. Discord is on the website now.
Excellent.
I meant to do that last week, but I kind of forgot.
That is all right. So are you ready to go talk about the games we played this week?
I think so.
Do you, since I only have one game, do you want me to go first, or do you still want to go first and keep with tradition?
Let's go ahead and let you go first so you can get transport fever out of your system.
All right, shaking it up this week. So the only game I played this week besides Skyrim, which obviously we're not talking about, was more Transport Fever. Let's see. I think I'm up to about 30 hours in Transport Fever already. Let me just go look here real quick. 31 hours.
Yeah, you're going to need an intervention. Or just another game to play.
I've been playing it like crazy.
No, really?
So basically what I have to say this week is I've discovered some new things, or some more new things, and I understand how systems work in the game a bit better. Everything that I said last week was true about the cargo system and everything, all the changes, but I did discover that I was misreading how that the cargo chains work. So they're not quite as complicated as I initially thought. Most of the top, actually all of the top level cargoes, the goods, tools, and machinery, which are the three top tier cargoes, they each have two ways that they can be made. So I thought that they needed to have, 3 or 4 ingredients, or 3 or 4 requisite materials. But actually, there's 2 different ways that they can be made. So you can choose to use, for example, tools can be made with 1 steel or 2 planks, 2 units of planks. And I thought that they needed both of those. Machinery can be made with either steel and planks or plastic and steel. It does require steel, but you can use either thing. And that's not to say that you can't ship all of these things there and then the production just kind of sorts itself out. It's pretty intelligent about working with the ingredients that it's given, but you don't
Sounds like
have
the dog
to
is going after Smokey Smokey the bear.
Yeah, someone's got the dog outside rattled up.
Sorry.
Nah, it's fine.
I just keep hearing it in the background.
Yeah. It's not coming through on the Audacity recording, so I think I'm safe, but Skype is, I don't know, I guess more sensitive or something. But anyways, so I was misreading the cargo system a little bit, and once I got that figured out, it did make things easier. Made it easier to fulfill the needs of cities and have them grow larger, faster. Something that Train Fever veterans will probably know is that starting your game relying on passenger lines is really difficult. But that is not so in Transport Fever. Actually, one of the best ways to start a game, if you want to not borrow any extra money, is to create a passenger rail line between 2 towns that are fairly close, or at least have very level ground between the 2 of them. Because you can now use terminal stations, which instead of having being like a standard station that has rails that run through it, a terminal station ends. So you can actually just shove that right in the middle of a town, demolish a couple of buildings, put the station in, and your station will cover all, if not most, of the town. You do that in 2 towns, set up a simple passenger line between the 2, and you will make enough money that you don't have to borrow additional loan money at the beginning, which really helps either in hard mode or if you're trying to at least get the achievement for not borrowing extra money on any difficulty. I got the planes now. The planes are okay. They come, and I know that this is how it works in history, but they come so late in the game that they get very little use. I've already got major train networks set up between most, if not all of the cities. It's most of the cities in the game that I've got to planes. And I built a couple of airports just to check them out. But they're not really big money makers. Although that could change as I get later in the game, or later in time, and get larger and faster planes. But right now I'm stuck with very, very slow planes with very low capacity. So, they can run a few passengers at a time. And you can't do cargo with planes. There's a mod that adds cargo, but in the base game, you can't do cargo with planes.
That's just weird.
Yeah, so... which that's a little bit frustrating. It would be nice to be able to fly cargo, even small amounts, to towns that are way outside of my coverage. And eventually I want to expand and include every single town in my coverage. But, you make money a lot slower in Transport Fever than you did in Train Fever just because of the way that they changed the economy and adding, the multiple levels of goods and things like that. It's a lot more difficult to make huge sums of money. And things cost a lot more, especially the late game stuff. Replacing a train in Train Fever at this time, the year I'm in is like 1945. You could replace a train for $5 or 6 million, but replacing that same train in Transport Fever is going to cost you like $15 million. which it makes more sense in scale. Like, things are more expensive, as I think they should be, but that slows down your progression. So, I still haven't really progressed any in the campaign. I need to play the campaign and the tutorial. The things that I missed might actually be in the tutorial, but I completely skipped it because I knew how to play from Train Fever. And the other thing that I really like is that they've added a lot of new trains and train cars and things. And obviously they added all the planes and all of the ships, but it's just nice to see both more steam and diesel engines, and actually electric engines too, especially on the American line, because there were only a couple of American train engines in the original game, but I've already hit 2 of them. I've already hit 2, and I know there's at least 2 more coming. Plus, they've added some special one-offs things that existed, like I forget exactly what it's called, but it's a World's Fair type train that's made out of aluminum. It's super fast. You get it in like the 30s, the 20s or the 30s, and it's the first train you get that can do over 100 miles an hour. And it's not very expensive, so it's really fast. It only carries passengers, but it's neat to see little one-offs like that existed in history as kind of concepts. It's nice to see that they've brought those into the game, so adds a little more diversity. But I'm probably going to finish that American game this week, take what I've learned and start over and do it again, and this time do better. So Transport Fever. If you like Train Fever or Management, then you'll like it. And if you don't, you'll be like Rage, sitting over there with drool coming out of the corner of your mouth.
What?
All right, buddy, that's my game for this week. Your turn. Feels weird to go first.
You're just going to change it in editing now, aren't you?
Nah, probably not. That's too much work. Have to cut whole sections of the audio and swap them around.
Yeah, it's not like you do that already.
I do sometimes, but it's a pain.
Well, let's go ahead and jump into the Sunday sampler with Neptune Flux. There's a game that I bet everybody's like, what the fuck is this? This is an underwater adventure game, and if you want me to sum it up in one word, short. I did approximately an hour of, actually under an hour of playtesting just to get the feel for it, because it's one of these games that it's has a VR element, but it's still playable on a normal system, monitor, keyboard, mouse, that sort of thing. And they decide that, options menu, we don't need a fucking options menu. What, you want the controls? Fuck you. So I would say a good 5 minutes of that was me just trying to figure out what the controls were. But you play as a person in a sub scrapping metal and trying to find out what happened to her mother. Because she worked with the same company and disappeared mysteriously. Ooh. And in my approximately, I would say less than an hour and a half of testing and recording, I have half the achievements done. And there's a lot of people talking about that the game is approximately 2 hours long. Which I could actually see that, because I only have a couple set pieces left where I left off in the recording. So yeah, it is very, very short. And it's overpriced for what it is. It's $20 if I recall correctly.
Right.
Just going back to double check that I have the right price on that. And I was hoping that you would have a link, have the link up to be able to confirm that. No, it's $15 normally. I was actually told the wrong price on the press release. It's a little weird. Because when I recorded it, it was actually before the release. But yeah, $15 normally, and it's just over 10. And the thing is that it feels like they were trying to cut a lot of corners. Well, I should say he, because it's a single-person development team, and I'm pretty sure it's a guy that was that developed it, but can't recall offhand. With the obviously outsourcing a little bit of voice acting and that sort of thing. But
Right.
it felt like he was cutting a lot of corners because you can't really see it on the screenshots. But all the textures are a little muddy, and maybe they're trying to simulate the underwater feel, but you get up close to it and it still looks a little bit blurrier than what it should. And also, I felt like some of the incidental models, like the tube worms that are on the ocean floor, they were hexagons or octagons. I can't recall which, but it doesn't really matter. Instead of being a circle, so the model was really cut down, and that wasn't level of detail either. I was pretty much right on top of the damn thing, and it was still acting like it was a very cut down model of it. So it's just weird little things like that makes the game a little uglier than it should be.
Right.
And gameplay wise, since I'm not really a graphics guy, and I could forgive, a game being a little bit ugly if the gameplay is there. But they tout it as an open world adventure game, but they really, really, really punish you if you go outside the set pieces to go look around the world. And the map is astonishingly small. You could go from one end of the playable area to the other in about 4 minutes.
Yeah, that's pretty small. Especially for an open world exploration game.
Yeah, and if you're not at one of the set pieces, you are draining your battery power, and if you're running the sonar trying to find the damn things that you're hunting for, you have approximately a minute of battery power. So, yeah, very, very small amount of time. Granted, you can get an upgrade to make it so that your sonar doesn't use battery power, but it's expensive. It requires you to complete a couple set pieces, and then you're able to get enough money to be able to just pick up the couple upgrades that you need. And they also have an upgrade where you could extend the battery field where you're not, well, I should say the power field, so you're not on the battery all the time. But honestly, that's kind of pointless because you really have no incentive to not be at the set pieces because there's really nothing on the ocean floor to explore outside of there's Amelia Earhart's aircraft. There's a U-boat for some reason. There's a sunken ship. That sort of thing. Which I thought Amelia Earhart crashed in the Pacific Ocean. So why is there a U-boat?
Well, there were German ships operating in the Pacific Theater during World War II.
Yeah, but not many.
They were mostly used for transport. They would run like night supply missions and things like that.
Yeah, it's just I have a feeling that it probably ties into the story. Why everything is cobbled together like this, because then there's a sailing ship that I'm pretty sure is a pirate ship, which screams to me Caribbean.
Right.
So it's just maybe that ties into the story, and and I didn't play far enough to have it make sense. And there's this sci-fi element where you're getting this relic that allows you to transcend time, to go back in time and hear little bits of story. And that will absolutely blind you because it makes the rather dark screen go completely white. And it's my eyes, they burn. Oh, but yeah, it's one of those things that I like the concept of, but the execution just wasn't there.
Right.
I should say that it's overpriced for the execution that you get because it is a very, very short game.
Right. I mean, this sounds like it would be a fun, a good concept, a fun way to spend a couple of hours. But I don't want to spend $15 for that. I want to spend a buck or two, maybe $5, but definitely no more than that.
And honestly, the voice acting didn't really do anything for me either. The opening monologue, the woman had all the emotion of reading a grocery list when she was talking about her mother, disappearing. I mean, maybe it's just, it was lost on me. And that could be just the case that, it just wasn't hitting it for me. And the fact that I was having just these little issues where, you're not telling me how to turn on the fucking sonar to go hunt for the damn thing you're telling me to go turn the sonar on to hunt for.
Right.
Which this may just come down to it being a one-man development team. And, you know how to turn on the sonar because you've worked on this game for, a year or two or however long. And you don't think of, okay, I'm giving this to players and they don't have the expertise of this game. So, maybe a little pop-up saying, to turn on the sonar, right-click whenever you have the sonar icon highlighted by rotating the mouse wheel, which if you don't have a mouse wheel, you are fucked. Because that's the only way that I found to change your power, so to speak. Granted, mouse wheel is pretty standard equipment, but still, if you're playing this on a laptop, good luck.
Yeah, trying to use the touchpad in place of a mouse wheel is frustrating at best.
Granted, there may be a hotkey for that, but like I said, there's no options menu. So you can't even adjust the graphics to, try to bring it down if you're below spec, which it wasn't having any issues for me anyway. So that may be, it's a low spec game, which actually, let me go check the specs on this. Yeah, it looks like it could run on a potato, except for the graphics card, GTX 970. That's fairly decent.
Yeah. Well, I assume that's because it looks like this is marketed primarily as a VR game.
Yeah, probably.
That's probably why it's
I mean, even the, in monitor mode, you see at the corners where the headset is. Or, where the eyepiece would be.
Yeah.
And it has sort of this little fisheye effect on the HUD.
Yeah.
Yeah, really disappointing because I really wanted to like this a lot more. If you're extremely hard up for an underwater exploration game, check it out on sale. But otherwise, meh. There's a couple of people that are saying beat it in an hour, which, I was going around testing things, so maybe it is beatable in an hour. I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe. I mean, if it ever goes on sale for a couple bucks, I'd probably buy it just because it looks like it would be, a fun mess around in gaming experience for a little while.
It's not a terrible looking game. It's just one of those that it could look a lot better. And once I noticed, some issues with it, it's, I couldn't unsee that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's Neptune Flux. Maybe this also comes down to the fact that I am a fucking harsh critic. Oh. So let's jump over to... my second game is more me setting it up than anything else. I actually got Euro Truck Simulator 2 up and running again. Granted, I don't have my old save file, so I'm starting from scratch once again, but I'm also playing with the DS4 controller now, which makes life a lot easier, actually.
How's that?
Well, for one, I could look back and forth with the touchpad. So if I'm pulling onto traffic, just use the touchpad to quickly look left and right, and I'm good to go.
Oh, you look around? I just drive and expect people to stop for me, like a real trucker.
Yeah, just blast the air horn.
Yeah, it's my kid's job. I discovered that there were blinkers.
Yeah.
The other day. I never really thought about that. I never used the blinkers.
Oh, there's actually an option in the options menu, obviously, to make it so that if you turn on the blinkers, your trucker will actually look in that direction.
Oh, that's handy.
I actually use the turn look, so as I'm turning, my trucker will slowly look in that direction.
Yeah, I don't like that. I use mouse look because since I play with joystick, although I'm probably going to start playing it with Steam controller, just because I don't like the throttle control I have on my joystick. Mm-hmm. I mean, it works, but it's pretty much full throttle or full brake. There's very little room in the middle to try and maintain a speed, so...
Yeah, I use a lot of cruise control, actually. But the triggers on the DS4 controller actually has enough room where I could maintain a speed, but it just makes life a lot easier to turn on cruise control and just sit there and listen to podcasts, listen to people rant about Trump.
Yeah. Right now, cruise control, for me at least, I don't think would be very useful, just because I'm doing lots of short journeys. I haven't played enough to get to the long-haul trucking yet.
Yeah, I'm still on the short journeys as well, but it's nice to have. My journeys are 10, maybe 15 minutes long right now. I've literally just set up the game and got a few trips in. But the thing is that setting up the controls actually takes me a while because, it's one of those things that, tweak a little bit, drive around a little bit, and it's like, no, I want to change this, and I want this control over here.
I wonder how well Euro Truck would run on my laptop. That would be... I mean, I have so many games.
It does work well with my old setup with the 7800 series video card, but I'm seeing a huge improvement with the RX 480.
Yeah.
I had it set up where, I would hit about 30 FPS in town, but because you're not in town that much, I had it where it was prettier out of town. And it would go back up to 60, but right now I'm able to maintain 60 all times. It's perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be... I mean, I say...
I may get a little dip here and there just if there's a lot of traffic.
Yeah. I say all the time, well, that would be a fun game to play at the clinic. So, I have a ton of games that I, would play at the clinic if I have downtime, but I do listen to a lot of podcasts while I'm in my downtime at the clinic. So,
Euro Truck would be perfect for that.
This would be a great game to go along with that, yeah.
Yeah, Euro Truck is actually my unwind and podcast game. And that's why I was setting it up again, because I've had a little bit of trouble sleeping lately.
Yeah. That's what Transport Fever is for me right now. I mean, well, not unwinding, but listen to podcasts. I'm playing it very seriously now, but Train Fever kind of hit this point for me where it's very casual. Like, it was just kind of okay, I know exactly what to do to make lots of money very quickly, and I can just kind of watch my train network grow and listen to podcasts, and Transport Fever will hit that at some point. But Transport Fever is very demanding on my laptop. I said last time it was more better optimized, so that's nice, but still eventually, I've started hitting this point on the game I'm playing on my laptop, despite playing on a small map size, where it's like, okay, I can't even keep a straight 30 no matter where I am on the map, just because there's so much it's trying to keep up with at all times.
Yeah, and that's more processor than anything else.
Yeah. So. Okay, what else did you play this week?
The last one I played is a response game to Skyrim, because I realize we're not talking about Skyrim this week, but I have a response game to Skyrim because I finished the main story and I wanted something with actually a rich story to it that was somewhat interesting to me. So I decided to go into my Dolphin emulator and start playing Tales of Symphonia. Yes, I realize it has a PC port, but it's also a port of the PS3 version. So it's a port of a port, and if I recall correctly, there was some content cut or toyed around with, and I just wanted to go back to the base version of it. So, and this was also something that I downloaded originally when I set up the Dolphin emulator, and I've never messed with it. So it seemed like a good time to have a little side project to play for the next few months, because Tales of Symphonia is a very long JRPG.
Yeah.
And I've barely scratched the surface. I've played, I think, 2 hours, and it's approximately a 50 to 60 hour game. But it has a very beautiful art style. That's one thing that's kind of struck me with the GameCube games I've toyed around with, is that a lot of them, they don't really go for the realistic art style. They go more for a cartoony or stylized art style, which tends to age a bit better. Yeah,
Nintendo's done that for a long time.
Yeah, I think that they learned their lesson from the Nintendo 64, because there were a lot of games that haven't aged well with the N64. But that hasn't really been the case with what I've seen with the GameCube. Granted, I am playing the GameCube games at double resolution with some anti-aliasing and all sorts of fun little features because I can. Because no game is exclusive forever. Right?
Nope.
But
yes. You are correct. Whichever answer yeah. You know what I mean.
You're not even paying attention at this point. You're just sitting there playing Transport Fever.
I'm not. I don't know if my computer can handle Transport Fever and recording.
And you don't want to find out.
Nope. I don't want to accidentally crash my computer.
Yeah, you gotta let Windows 10 do that for you instead.
Yeah. I might be doing that in the near future, though. I'm getting a new desk. It's an L desk. So I will have a spot that I can set my laptop up while we're doing
stuff. So
stuff.
it's Le Desk?
Yeah, it's Le Desk.
It's French.
It's El Desk. El Desco.
And then you have to build a wall around it.
Yeah, to keep the kid out. And he's going to pay for it.
Take it out of his college fund.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just wanted something a little story rich because, well, we'll get to that when I talk about Skyrim because I have my issues with Skyrim's story. And Skyrim in general. Oh, I'm looking forward to the game club. Shame we keep delaying it.
I am looking forward to this discussion. It's pretty much going to be the entire podcast, I think. We'll have to break it down into sections. I'll think about that. What sections we need to talk about.
We'll break it down into individual podcasts. We'll have the story podcast, then the next week we'll talk about the side quests.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just the fact that I've outgrown Skyrim. I should say Bethesda-style open world games. I don't know.
I think outgrow, getting close. I'll respond to that and then we'll move on. I think outgrow is the wrong word. I think that perhaps a more appropriate word is you have
higher expectations.
You've changed. Your preferences have changed.
No, I think it's I have higher expectations, especially. Well, you haven't heard my beefs with Skyrim. Quite as many of them, I should say, because I have I have more. But yeah, I think it's more. I have higher expectations, so I wanted something a little bit richer. And hopefully Tales of Symphonia lives up to that because it's already kind of interesting to me. There's the three main characters so far. They've hinted that, there's something going on with them. Not very subtly, but, they also are teenagers. So, because it's a JRPG, so, they have to be teenagers.
Right, of course.
You're lucky that they're not in high school. But they are in school, so maybe that is a high school. I don't know. What is it with the Japanese and everyone being teenagers in high school?
Maybe in Japan, that's the best time of their life. The last time that they're free culturally before they go
pretty much
slaves in the
before they
Japanese.
go die at their desk.
Yeah.
Go sleep under their desk until they're 75, then die there.
Yeah.
Boy, we just lost the Japanese market. But then again, I think the Japanese market for our podcast is Amy, if she's still alive over there. Badger, you alive? We'll hear from her in about 4 or 5 months.
Maybe.
But yeah, that was my last game.
All right. Well, with that out of the way, let's move on to our first news topic of the evening. Well, really more of a footnote, honestly.
Yeah, more of a bulletin.
Yeah, the Steam Autumn and Winter sales dates have leaked. And in other news, seasons change, Steam has sales.
Water's wet. Sean Murray puts out disappointing games. And Peter Molyneux lies.
Yeah, so, I mean, there's no surprise what the dates are. The Autumn sale, November 23rd, which I guess they do move back and forth between having like a Halloween sale and like a fall
Well, they had a
sale.
Halloween sale.
They did. They're adding another sale this year. So that's
they've had a Halloween sale the last couple of years. It's more, the winter sale is pretty much, we always know that it ends January 2nd. It's more, just how many days they have because varies a little bit, maybe 1 or 2 days. So,
oh man, you know what I just realized?
what?
So the clinic closes December 21st and doesn't reopen until January 2nd.
And, well, let's go over the dates real quick. We probably aren't going to have a Steam Weekly pick for next week because it's the autumn sale starts November 23rd and ends the 29th.
Right.
So it starts literally the day after we record and ends the day we record the next day, the next
so
week.
We probably won't have any recommendations for 2 weeks.
Yeah. Which, we've had that in the past, recently.
Yeah.
With the Halloween sale, mucking that up. Unless we just want to record the 23rd.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. I know you don't. That puts you way too much pressure on you to edit. And the winter sale starts the December 22nd and ends January 2nd, which it always ends January 2nd. It just, the starting date's either the 21st through the 23rd. So really no surprise there.
Yeah, so that means that we'll go 3 weeks without a recommendation. Well, no, we might have recommendations. We'll go 2 weeks. Because it starts...
Yeah, we'll have a recommendation on Boxing Day. Or, sorry, not Boxing Day, but day after Boxing Day. The 27th recording for the last week of the Steam Winter Sale.
Yeah. And the week of Christmas, since we're talking about it. We won't have a podcast that week because Christmas
we won't have recommendations for the Winter Sale at all.
Yeah. So that week we'll be either running a Franken episode or we might pre-record something for Christmas. That's extra work, though. So who knows?
Yeah, how lazy do you want to be?
I want to be incredibly lazy. My family's going to be here. Or my in-laws. They're going to be here from...
I'm going to be bored out of my mind that week.
I think they're going to be here from like the 18th through the 2nd in various forms. Because my mother and father-in-law...
Actually, I have an idea for that week now. Because I'm looking at the calendar. Should I share what that should be here?
You can if you want to.
The VGL Awards. It's the last week of the year.
So you want to pre-record those and then air that the last week of the year? Possibly. All right, I'm down with that. We got lots of time between now and then to do that.
Talk about our games of the year and our disappointments. Beat up on No Man's Sky some more.
Yeah.
It'll be fun.
Yeah, I'm down with that.
And actually, that also interferes with the December Game Club.
Yeah.
Because the Game Club would be that week as well. So
we'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll have to have a powwow about that. Oh, that's cultural appropriation. Never mind.
We'll figure it out. See, I'm looking at the calendar. We should be good next Tuesday to record. Because I'm thinking like Thanksgiving, but I mean, there's nothing going on. Tuesday for me is a normal day. So yeah, we're fine for next week. So Christmas, the week of Christmas is the only week that will...
Yeah, well, how are you defining the week of Christmas? Because Christmas is a Sunday this year.
Well, I mean, the first day of the week is Sunday, so...
Well, unless you're in Europe, then it's Monday.
We're not in Europe. Our listeners in Europe will figure it out.
Unless they just give up on us. So, shall we move on?
Yeah, let's move on from the scheduling portion of the podcast to the first actual news topic, which is this is a general topic that we pulled and then added a few things in underneath it, but is the AAA gaming bubble about to burst? So we had a couple of news topics this week.
One a couple weeks old, but we can kind of combine them. We're going to be mostly bringing up Dishonored 2 and Mafia 3. But, yeah, it seems like the AAA gaming industry just doesn't give a shit anymore. Or I should say, gives less of a shit than usual.
Yeah. So the first article was Dishonored 2 is a buggy mess at launch. The PC version, that is.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of people talking about just horrible optimization on it. huge drops in frame rates for no apparent reason. And it's just horrendous. And then the other one is Mafia 3 breaks sales records despite poor reviews. Mostly attributing that to pre-orders.
Yeah.
And then you could kind of tie that into other things, like No Man's Sky will bring that dead horse back out.
Yeah. And honestly, the big publishers triple releasing Battlefield 1, Titanfall 2, and Call of Duty Infinite Warfare back to back.
I was gonna bring that up, and the disappointing sales for Call of Duty this year, because it's even worse than usual.
In other aspects, World of Warcraft, the kind of the AAA leading MMO still, it's been bleeding subscribers for a long time, and this last update was the break glass in case of emergency update.
Yeah, the bring out Karazhan again, which I will have to admit that watching the trailer for Karazhan, and it hit me in the nostalgia. I will admit that, because Karazhan was my first real raid in World of Warcraft. I started playing about a week or two before Burning Crusade came out, so I didn't have the vanilla experience. My vanilla experience was pretty much all the lag that was associated with the world event that was going on at the time.
Yeah.
Which, that was a pretty major world event, but I wasn't high enough level to really take part in it, so it was more like, is the game always this laggy?
It was for me, but I played on dial-up, so...
Yeah.
Yep. My 56K modem that I was lucky to get 40K.
I leveled up and was able to raid Karazhan, and Karazhan was one of the best raiding experiences I had. There was the highlights for me. There was Karazhan. There was the Lady Vash fight itself, not that raid, because that raid itself, there was some good points, but there was also some really bad fights in there. Particularly because of my guild at the time. They just couldn't understand, simple directions. Really, all the major lore characters had good fights in Burning Crusade. Ulduar and Wrath of the Lich King was really good. Icecrown Citadel, somewhat. There was a couple bad fights in there. But Karazhan was really the nostalgia for me, because that was my first raid, and it had a lot of fun boss encounters, and they kind of brought that back. And that's what this last major update was for WoW, was, the break glass in case of emergency. They brought out Karazhan again. And not just in WoW, they brought it out in Hearthstone as well.
Right. So let's first very simply answer the question, and then we will, I think, delve into it a bit more. Rage, simple yes or no, for now. Is the AAA gaming bubble about to burst?
I'm going to say it's in danger of it. So that's a maybe.
I'm going to say not yet. So neither of us actually said yes or no. So, okay, so why are you saying maybe? It's in danger of it.
Well, I'm just looking at the AAA releases in general for this season. So far, we've had Titanfall 2 just flopping. Call of Duty flopping. We've had Dishonored having just a mess on PC, which I could get in a micro rant about. Hey, this is the first major game release under Bethesda's new bullshit review policy. And look, it's a fucking buggy mess. You get to experience this with the reviewers as they try to explain why it's fucked up. Oh, wait, they're giving it high scores because it's Bethesda. You expect to have a shitty game to begin with. And a slight rant there.
Right.
And you're just silent.
I'm just sitting there listening to you.
Oh, I'm sorry, but I just saw a review a couple of days ago. Now, I'm not going to link because I'm not going to give them traffic, even to an archive of it, saying that Dishonored 2 is a great game if you could get past all the technical issues, and they give it a 10 out of 10.
Wow.
That's not a review. That's a fucking advertisement.
I think I would have accepted it's a great game if you can get past the technical issues. 8 out of 10. I would have been happy to have seen like a 7, but I could have accepted an 8. It's like, it's an amazing game.
Dishonored 2 has, I think, in the low 90s on Metacritic. Granted, a lot of that may be boosted by the console release, which hasn't had the issues because it's mostly optimization problems and random crashing on the PC version because Bethesda can't bother to QA their games.
Right.
Because why QA their games when they could just have the general public do it for them?
Right. So my response to the question was not yet. And I think that comes from, I've seen plenty of years where lots of games released and did poorly. Maybe not this many games. I don't specifically remember. But, on the flip side of that...
It feels like it's a tough year for AAAs just in general, especially the fall or the autumn season, I should say, because, we've had, I would say, 5 major releases so far that's either flopped or has had major technical issues that I can think of off the top of my head.
Right. But, the flip side of what where I'm coming from thinking of that is like, the industry is also growing all the time. I mean, the games industry is a huge industry that just gets bigger and bigger all the time as more and more people enter the hobby and grow in passion for it. There are more games coming out every day now. There's probably more games coming out in a day, and I know that this is including more than just AAAs, but I think there's more games that come out every day now than what used to come out in a year.
If I recall correctly, Steam itself hit the... it's hit the 10,000 game mark during the dev days. That was about a month and a half, 2 months ago. But also, I want to say in March, maybe a little bit after that, they hit the point where in 2016 they released as many games as they had all year in 2015.
Yeah.
It was very early in the year. I do remember that. But here's the thing. Here's the flip side of this. We're not talking about a crash. We're talking about a bubble bursting.
No.
Those are two different things.
I'm not talking about a crash either. But I don't think that it has to do with necessarily the number of games that have been flops or have performed poorly this year. For me, I think it has to do with the business practices, which the anti-consumer business practices continue to grow in the AAA sector. And even though there's not massive widespread backlash yet, more and more people all the time are wising up to it as more and more people who are like you and me, enthusiasts in the market, have their voices more widely heard by those who don't. As gaming becomes more and more mainstream, more people who wouldn't have cared a few years ago are now like, oh, you know what? That's actually really crappy. And I think that we're a couple of years away from that waves kind of starting to build and the backlash to hit and the bubble to burst. I mean, I've seen more people, and yes, they have to follow through on this, but this year, more than ever, I've seen more people say, you know what, I'm done pre-ordering games because I'm tired of getting games that are broken at launch. Or I'm done pre-ordering games because I'm tired of getting a game and it having microtransactions inside of it. Like, I've already paid $60 for this. Why
and
do
the
I
fact
have
that
to
the reviews don't
to
mention
pay?
it at all, because if the site has a review copy, this publisher turns off all the microtransaction stuff, so it's not there when they're reviewing the damn game to begin with.
Yeah.
This has happened several times, and the fact that they could get away with it is just mind-boggling.
Yeah. So I think that we're still a couple of years away from the bubble bursting. But I think that we're going to start to see a slow decline. And it could always get turned around. I don't expect it to. I expect the executives and anyone involved in making large sums of money from or as a result of pre-orders and all of these predatory business practices to ride the wave as long as they can. Eventually, legislation will catch up, which will deal a pretty hefty blow to this, I believe. But even more on top of that, as consumer knowledge grows, the backlash also is beginning to grow. And it just takes time.
I think it really is going to come down to if games journalism actually grows a backbone and stands up to it. Because that's really where it's coming down to, is just the average consumer has to really dig for a lot of this information out there. Unless it's become omnipresent, where it's literally everywhere, where Dishonored is having issues on launch. So everyone's talking about it. It's not just, the enthusiast site talking about, well, the remaster of the Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 4, is it? The latest Call of Duty that was being sold in the Legendary Edition with Infinite Warfare.
Yeah.
Okay. How data miners are finding microtransaction stuff in that game, and they're due to sell that game as a separate release around Christmas time. So expect microtransactions in it.
There's Modern Warfare was fine without microtransactions. I played it. I think my game time in Modern Warfare was like 7 days when I quit playing it years ago.
Well, it's a modern re-release. Of course it's going to have microtransactions. It's going to have DLC weapons, which they're also finding, by the way. It just makes you depressed, doesn't it?
It does make me sad.
I do agree with you that I don't think it's going to be a sudden downturn. The bubble bursting. It's going to be more of a deflating. And I think it's actually going to be accelerated by a couple things. For one, how this strike with the Voice Actors Guild turns out, and if it turns into a unionization of the devs itself. Because that's going to be a lot more pressure on the games industry to do these predatory practices. And they're going to push and push and push until they get pushed back. And I think when the consumers push back, they're going to push back hard. They're just going to cut pre-orders, in which a lot of the AAA industry just relies on way, way, way too much these days. And they're just going to push back on all the DLC practices, on all the microtransactions. I do think the awakening is coming, and it's just when is the alarm going to go off?
Yeah. Honestly, I think pre-order culture would have died a lot more by now. Because of the digital era, if it wasn't for companies coming up with all of these crazy incentives for pre-orders. It's like you can play the game a day early. You can get this special thing that you can't get any other way. Like, I think that's the only thing at this point that's keeping pre-orders alive.
If you want to have this mission pack, you have to buy it from GameStop. But if you want this mission pack, you have to buy it from Walmart.
Yeah. Even in the physical space, you just don't need to pre-order games anymore.
Yeah, gaming has gotten to the point where the game company, or not the game companies, the game stores are not going to have 5 copies of the game. They're going to have hundreds of copies of a AAA release. Maybe a little indie title that somehow gets a physical release. The game store is going to have just a handful of copies. But that's going to be a rarity. Just because indie games like that just don't get the releases.
Yeah.
And I'm just looking, I'm slowly scrolling down the games that were released this year, and I'm just seeing so many disappointments. Let's see, Movie Time game, Ghostbusters video game, absolutely terrible. Just a complete waste of time there, a waste of ones and zeros. And that's the modern Ghostbusters game, not the actually good one from a few years ago. Deus Ex Mankind Divided. It had a issue with its pre-order to the point that it actually had to completely restructure that. And didn't have some performance issues on launch.
Yeah, it had some problems on launch, although it was pretty stable. Most of the problems from Deus Ex came from the microtransaction system that was hidden from the viewers.
I forgot about the microtransaction being hidden from the viewers there. Let's see. Recore, absolutely mediocre. I'm just going further and further down the list now. The Witness, meh, unless you're really into line puzzles for some reason. But yeah, it's just so many games that just haven't lived up to what they should have been, or have had various issues on launch, to the point that it's almost newsworthy when a game just doesn't have any issues at all, that it comes out perfectly playable. There's no bullshit microtransactions. As a matter of fact, it was a huge news story when Titanfall 2 said that they wouldn't have DLC.
Yeah. I'm worried that they will point to that and say, aha, see, no one cares about this stuff. We put this in the game and nobody bought it anyways. They're going to use that as an example, when instead they just released it at a very poor time.
A poor time, and released it on a platform that, well, at least on PC, that doesn't get nearly as much traffic.
Yeah.
Because let's put it this way. How many people in the audience, show of hands, have bought a game on Origin, and not counting the free games? Show of hands?
Well, I mean, it's not like we have a live audience, but I would venture to say
we don't?
I would venture to say that there are one or two people, but out of our 300-ish listeners, that is a very, very small minority. I mean, I've never bought a game on Origin.
Let's see, I've never bought a game on Origin. I've technically bought a game on Uplay because I got a code from Newegg that was a Uplay code, so technically I've gotten there. But most of my games I've gotten from Steam, partly because Steam allows me to kind of recycle the games I get. I'll get the trading cards from a game and dump them in my wallet by selling them, and pick up actually quite a few games that way.
Yeah, which that's really smart. That keeps you in their ecosystem.
Yeah.
I mean, that's smart marketing by them.
I mean, granted, I'm not putting money into the system directly. I'm more getting money from other people. And Steam is kind of double dipping on that because they're getting the cut from whenever I'm selling the cards, and then they're getting the full price there. So they're actually getting more from me because of the wallet system than I would otherwise pay.
Right.
But I'm also a patient gamer because, I have, a few games in my backlog.
Yeah. The only platform other than Steam that I've ever bought a game from is GOG.
I've bought from Green Bank Gaming a few times. And then there's the various indie bundles, which, honestly, the indie bundles have really fallen off as well. Have you noticed that? Humble Bundle has put so much focus on their subscription that their actual bundles just seem getting worse and worse. Either that or the fact that I have so many games that, there's just not a lot there that's calling to me. I'm not sure which it is.
I never go check Humble Bundle. It's not a place that I shop.
Well, I check the main bundles, just for the fun of it. Let's see what they're running right now. Let's see. Granted, this one bundle is still going to be active by the time listeners hear this. The Unreal bundle, which has Killing Floor in it, which is actually decent if you're into that sort of game. Kyle, I imagine, would love that. Dangerous Golf, which never really heard of. Shadow Complex Remastered, which I never heard of. Vanishing Even Carter, which, meh. Pretty, but meh. Adrift, Mean Green's Plastic Warfare, which is an absolutely dead multiplayer shooter. And The Calling, which I'm pretty sure is also a fairly dead King of the Hill shooter. So, yeah.
Yeah, those are not great games for the most part.
Yeah, and they put so much emphasis on the subscription, with Dragon's Dogma Dark Risen, which is essentially a Dark Souls-like game. I mean, that's the early release for the subscription model, which is going to be in December. So, yeah, that's where their focus is, really.
Yeah.
But getting back to topic, what can the games industry do to avoid the bubble bursting on them and seeing this huge downturn? Because I think if this bubble bursts, or if they see the downturn that I'm expecting, I at least hope that consumers wise up.
Yeah,
they're going to see a lot of lost sales. I mean, Call of Duty is already going there. Titanfall is already going there, and I think that's just the harbingers of things to come.
Right. I think to stop the slide, or to stop the bubble from leaking, bursting, they got to fix their business practices, which I don't expect them to do that until the bubble bursts. But
yeah, they're going to push the line as hard as they can.
That would help. Might even prevent the bubble from bursting. And I think that the industry needs to sit down together as a whole and just say, okay, we need to release less games. Because that's a big problem that they have. Games cannibalize other games all the time.
I wouldn't say they need to release less games. I would say that they need to space out their games. Because you have the summer season that has no AAA releases in it whatsoever, which I really don't understand why the industry doesn't release indie major titles during the summer. Because they market so heavily to children, to the point that we have a news article later that kind of dives into that.
Yeah.
But the time that all the kids are going to be, out of school, and let's face it, a lot of them are going to be indoors, because that's kind of how things are these days. They don't have any new sales. They don't have any new games out there. It's weird to me. I just don't understand that. The summer blockbuster season just doesn't exist in the games industry like it does in the movies industry. Instead, you have the autumn and building up to Christmas, and then a little bit after that, and that's it for the AAA industry.
Right.
So I would say not release games, fewer games, space them out more, where you don't need Battlefield 1, Titanfall 2, and then Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. And I realized 2 of those are from the same publisher, and the third one is from another one. Back to back to back. You could spread those out, which Titanfall 2 should have been. It shouldn't be out yet.
Yeah, I agree. I think Titanfall 2 would have been a great, and we talked about this before, a great spring game, spring release, or maybe, a February release, which is technically still winter, but, it would have been a great Q1 release for 2017. Not crammed in between 2 other shooters that are basically the same thing.
Mm-hmm. And I would say my other idea, and this is going to sound weird, is to take more risks. Because, okay, think about this. How many games just feel like they are being dumbed down, that they are being sold to the lowest common denominator anymore?
How many? Sorry, say that again.
How many games feels like they're just being watered down to the point that they're being sold to the lowest common denominator?
Oh,
that
gosh.
That they're shadows of what the series used to be.
Almost every AAA title, if not all of them.
Well, let's just take a look at Fallout. Compare Fallout, even 3 to 4. Never mind New Vegas.
Yeah, they stripped a lot of stuff out of Fallout 4 that was really enjoyable from previous games. They gutted the conversation system, which was probably the worst part. They simplified the combat system a little bit. Although some of those changes were really good. They made the real-time combat better as opposed to the VATS combat. But
yeah, I've heard a lot of people say that Fallout 4 is no longer an RPG. It's a shooter with RPG elements.
Yeah, that's very true. Which some people like that, some people don't. I do like the changes that they made to the using guns in Fallout 4, but I mean, I would prefer it to be an RPG. So,
or just think of the genres that are dead, or essentially dead. How many AAA 4X games are out there that are not Civilization?
Oh, AAA 4X games that aren't.
Or I'll throw out some more. Let's see. Not counting Star Citizen or Elite Dangerous, how many space exploration games are there that are actually good in the AAA industry? And Star Citizen I don't count because it's crowdfunded, and you have Elite Dangerous, which is the one that is out now.
Yeah, I can't think of any others.
Or just think of tactical shooters. Tactical shooters have really fallen off. More slow-paced shooters, I should say, right? Tactical shooters. Because a lot of them are faster paced now, very Call of Duty-esque.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just 3 I could think of off the top of my head. Hell, I'll throw out another one. God games. When was the last time a good God game came out? Black and White?
Maybe. I can't think of a good example between then and now.
That is more of a AA game instead of a AAA game, but still the idea is there. You have genres that are just dead. And I would love to see maybe not AAA caliber games. Do like Ubisoft has been doing, where they have essentially their indie branch, where they're kind of feeling out other genres. You know, like Valiant Hearts, for example, is a Ubisoft game from essentially their indie brand. Do things like that with the AAA industry, and if they get a hit, expand upon it.
Yeah.
Because I'll be perfectly honest, I'm pretty far behind the wave when it comes to releases. Matter of fact, I just recently picked up Shadow Mordor, which is, 2015? It's late 2014. I can't remember which.
I think it's 2014, because it released for both current gen and last gen consoles, so it would have had to have been 2014, I think.
And it honestly doesn't feel like I'm missing much in the current market outside of maybe Civ 6.
Yeah.
Let's see, September 30th, 2014. So yeah, I'm 2 years behind on the release schedule, not counting indie games, which that's more review copies and, weird things there, and that doesn't count. So I'm, let's say 2 years behind on releases, and it doesn't feel like I'm missing anything because, it feels like everything is just getting muddied and watered down.
Yeah.
The shooters feel all the same. The strategy games are pretty much Civ, and that's it in the AAA industry. Then you get the indie games, which, never have the multiplayer element because, there's like 5 people that bought the damn game that play at the same time, and they're all masters of the game.
Right. Yeah.
So I would say take the Ubisoft model, which it feels weird praising Ubisoft, by the way, and try releasing smaller side projects to fill out new genres to see what actually sells. Try to bring back the CRPG if you're not Wasteland or Divinity Original Sin, because that's really the only major CRPGs that's been released in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Try to bring the diversity back. Try to bring the depth of games back. Yes, the games won't sell nearly as well because they're not watered down all to hell, but you will get the praise. And who knows, maybe, just maybe, the numbers are there and you just don't realize it because you're watering down your fucking games trying to get the 12-year-olds that are little Twitch shooters to play Fallout.
Right. I don't think that you'd really like Fallout very much as a Twitch shooter. It's more shootery for sure, but I don't think you'd like it as a Twitch shooter. Too much stoppage.
But, well, you know what I'm saying. Trying to get the shooter guys into Fallout, when honestly it's not or at least it shouldn't be a shooter game. It should be an RPG first with shooter elements.
Right, I agree with that.
And honestly, Fallout 4 is what a lot of people were worried would happen when Fallout 3 was released. Because I've heard so many complaints about Fallout 3 saying, well, you're just going to water down the game to be a shooter with RPG elements. Guess what? They were right.
Yeah.
So, what do you think? Anything else that you could think of that the AAA gaming industry could really do to try to avert disaster?
I don't think so. I mean, my point's clear, and you've been doing a really good job of just, continuing this, So, I think I'm good with this topic.
Yeah, I would say that also something else is that don't focus group your games to death. Valve is actually a really bad example of this. Whenever you eventually play Portal 2, you could go into the dev commentary and hear them say, well, we had to cut this element out of this puzzle because our focus groups showed that people are spending too much time in this area, that they couldn't figure it out right away. And Valve is one of the more open companies about this, but this happens all across the board, and this is probably part of the reason why we're getting watered down games, is that they're focus grouping way too much. They're relying on the demographics way too much. I mean, I know I'm rehashing what I said before, but it's also another element of it. And probably the root cause of the watering down of games just in general and watering down of genres is that, the focus groups show that, the 12 to 17-year-old demographic, they don't like CRPGs because there's too much reading.
Right.
They don't like deep puzzle games, so we're just going to make essentially a visual novel.
And lots of people do not want that.
Or maybe I'm just saying, get the fuck off my lawn. I don't know.
No, I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right.
I think we've beat this horse to death.
Indeed. Which means it's time for a bathroom break. I have polished off my coffee and my first glass of wine, and they have gone straight through me. So I'm going to go to the bathroom, and I will be right back, at which point we'll jump into news topic number 2 or 3.
I guess I'll go grab some more water then.
Well, let us move on to our next news topic. Alienware manager makes a statement on Steam Machine, or the lull of sales in the Steam machines. He says Windows 10 changed everything.
I don't respectfully disagree.
I agree with you, Rage, not this exec.
I'm going to say that the Steam machines were kind of doomed to failure just because they really didn't have a place in the market, really. Mm-hmm. They were essentially this weird hybrid of a console and PC trying to fit into the living room when, honestly, a pre-built PC would have been just fine in the living room. You could get small PCs pretty easily. Yeah. And Steam actually cannibalized what sales they would have gotten out of Steam machines with 2 words. Steam Link.
Yeah.
So I would say more Valve killed the Steam machine. Well, that, and also the Steam machine was running Linux. And yes, I realize we have the Linux gamers out there that are just going to be yelling at me at this point. But Linux is still, not quite there when it comes to gaming. Yeah, you see a lot of games coming out that just don't have Linux support. And the fact that the Steam machine ran Linux, or a version of Linux, or with a front end on it, really cannibalized a lot of sales that they would have had otherwise, assuming that the Steam machines were a decent value to begin with, which, for the most part, they weren't.
Yeah. I think in the future there will be a place for a machine that sits in your living room like that can do lots of different things. But right now, honestly, consoles fit that bill pretty well.
I would say either consoles or a Steam Link, assuming that you have the network for it. Or you definitely want to run a hard line for the Steam Link. You don't want to run that over Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
The Steam machine itself, if they were good value, it would have been fine. But the thing is that they are this weird middle ground where they were still being sold at a premium for the parts that they had. And honestly, anyone that really cared enough to have their secondary computer be in the living room would have just built the damn thing to begin with.
Yeah.
And you got to build it in a pretty much a smaller form factor than when most of the Steam machines were. I struggle to think of even a Steam machine that was of decent value. Outside of, strangely enough, the Alienware Steam machine was decent enough when it was on sale. Mm-hmm. Which, that feels weird. Alienware was the best value? Really?
I read a lot of reports stating that the Alienware, with the money that you paid for it, if you didn't want to build your own PC, the Alienware Steam machines actually were pretty decent all-purpose PCs, not just for gaming. They also were pretty decent power-to-money ratio for buying like an editing rig or something like that.
Yeah, but then you have to go into it and basically reformat the damn thing and put Windows on it, which kind of defeats the purpose of the Steam Machine to begin with, because it was the main drive of the Steam Machine was to try to get more Linux support into, AAA gaming, but also indie gaming as well. To have this huge install base, but you really run into a chicken and egg problem where, okay, you have a Linux box essentially, but you don't really have anything for it outside of streaming from your main computer, assuming that your main computer is good enough, because there is an overhead when you're doing the Steam streaming. But
yeah, you're
also selling a little box that's for $50 that you can just Velcro onto the back of your TV and do essentially that. Granted, you aren't going to have the localized gaming, but if you have a good enough computer to stream to it, that doesn't matter. So I would say more Valve killed it, and the fact that it was a Linux-based thing. Maybe if all the Steam machines were at least had a Windows option, which I think a couple did, or at least the early ones before the Steam OS was really ready for prime time, it would have sold a little bit better.
Yeah, I think it would have too.
What is he talking about exactly about Windows 10 killing it? Because I didn't find that in the article.
What was it that he said? That Microsoft made big mistakes with the Windows 8 and 8.1, and that drove a lot of people away from the PC market. Plus Microsoft not really committing Windows to being a platform to play games on. Like, just kind of leaving that up.
Well, that's more Microsoft being Microsoft. I mean, let's be perfectly honest. Microsoft just said, let's see, I would say about every other year for the past decade that they're going to have a renewed focus on PC gaming. And then on the off years, they do something mind-bogglingly stupid to undermine what they said the previous year. Let's see, the most recent one would be, Windows Anywhere, Xbox Anywhere, where it would have the Xbox version and the PC version, but then they undermine that with, the PC versions of some of these games, they can't play with the Steam version of the same game.
Yeah.
Or it's only certain games, and we're going to hold a lot of these games onto the console, because otherwise we won't be selling the damn things to begin with.
Yeah. I'm with you on the Steam Machine thing overall. I think that they just don't have a marketplace for them. And the niche that does exist for them is very, very small currently. I do think that will continue to grow as consoles become more PC-like. People will just say, well, if I'm going to spend $500 on a new console, why don't I just buy this, this Steam Machine or this pre-built whatever rig, whatever they wind up being called in a few more years, and just put that in my living room instead.
And I think another problem that the Steam machines had, they were really trying to market to really non-PC gamers. They were trying to get the console market.
Right.
But then they never really had the language there for the console users, because let's be perfectly honest. If you set a console person down with a list of Steam machines and their prices, they would have no idea what one was worth it and which one wasn't. What they should have had was some sort of benchmark for each of the Steam machines. Let's say, pick half a dozen of the higher end AAA games. Let's put like Witcher, Deus Ex, Mankind Divided. I realize I'm picking more recent games. Maybe a more lower end one, Civ, which I realize console players may not be interested in, but pick out half a dozen games and say, okay, this machine can run this game at this resolution on this preset at this frame rate, or have some sort of numerical idea of, okay, this machine is more powerful than this machine. This machine is more powerful than this one. And the fact that there was absolutely, what was it, a dozen at one point on the Steam store?
Yeah, there were a bunch.
And me and you, we could pick out which ones were worthwhile and which ones weren't, because we know the hardware. People that don't know the hardware would have absolutely no clue, and there was absolutely nothing to help them with it. And they were selling it on the Steam store, which is smart if they're trying to get PC players to get essentially a secondary computer for their living rooms. But that wasn't the market that they were trying to go after primarily. They were trying to get the console players, and there was never really the drive to do that. They never got the word out. They could have done that by, I don't know, getting a setup in GameStop, for example, or or even an advertisement on television, something. And I don't think they ever really did that. The Steam machines were trying to rely on word of mouth when honestly it was never really going to take off because who they were trying to get the word of mouth to spread had no interest in it because, it's a second computer that's less powerful than what I have, but more expensive than what I have, when I could just get the Steam Link and be done with it. And silence.
Sorry, I was thinking, and then I got a little distracted.
You were playing with Thomas the Tank Engine, weren't you?
Actually, I was sitting here. No, I was playing with this wine cork and my wine bottle opener. I'm
glad I have you so riveted.
I think the biggest problem with Steam machines is not necessarily not being able to pick them out, although that was an issue. I think they just needed to have like two. Steam needed to have like or Valve needed to have like a contest or a bidding war, a product bidding war or something like that, and say, the thing is that the two we want, and it's like the two or the three. It's like, do you want the entry level Steam machine? Do you want the more powerful Steam machine, or do you want the enthusiast Steam machine? And that's still some choices, but I think people can pick between three.
Well, the thing is that Valve always said that the Steam machine was never a product. It was more of an idea. And that's what they were pitching it out with, along with the Steam OS.
But it is a product.
Yeah. It's a product from third-party developers, from third-party sellers.
I mean, it's not a product is wonderful pie-in-the-sky thinking. It's something to say to make you look good. But the truth at the end of the day is it is a product. They're trying to sell something so that they can sell more somethings from their store.
Well, the thing is that Valve never released an official Steam licensed Steam machine, as far as I know. The closest they got was the Steam Link.
Yeah, I don't think they had a Valve licensed one either.
There was the Steam Boy that was going around, but that little handheld thing that was way expensive. But that was a third party selling it and trying to basically bank on the Steam name until Valve actually knocked them down and made them rebrand it as the Pinion.
Right.
Which is still, Valve related. Pinion, get it?
But
it's, Valve needed to go into the hardware business with this, which they kind of did with the Steam Link, but they needed to have an entry-level Steam machine, and have it upgraded every few years. Have Steam Machine 1.0 with these specs, and then say that in a few years we'll be upgrading the system.
Yeah.
But that requires a lot of capital, and Valve could swing it. I'm pretty sure. They make a lot of bank on Steam, but the thing is that, did they have the possible return on investment for it? Because that's where it really, that's where the big catch is. They could sell the idea of the Steam machine and let Alienware take over. They could let all these other companies take over and just produce the OS, which has kind of just fallen off. I'm not sure if they're still actively working on it anymore because, Valve being Valve, they are kind of just... They're very ADD with their projects, aren't they?
Now, they drop anything that doesn't make them lots of money, or that would be too much effort.
Yeah.
Which I suppose I can kind of respect that. That's how I'd operate if I, had millions of dollars coming in every day.
All that trading card money.
Yeah. I could do some work today, or I could enjoy this huge stack of money.
Go have a money bath with Gaben. You okay over there?
Excuse me. Yeah, a little bit of a cough. Sorry. Okay, well, I think this turned into a bigger topic than we intended it to.
Yeah, we actually got a little bit of a discussion there, which was a little bit surprising. Yeah. I thought we were just going to be laughing at Alienware, but Alienware actually had one of the better Steam machines, which was just really weird.
They did.
I'm not even sure if Alienware still sells the Steam machine. Actually, I need to go look on that. Let's see, Steam machines. It looks like the store page is still alive.
Yep.
And this Alienware Steam machine is $450. But this is the problem with it. I mean, I look Steam machines, and it has a Steam machine by Material.net, Main Gear Drift, Alienware Steam machine. But and it tells me the prices, but that's about it. As a matter of fact, there's one on here that's still on pre-order. That just shows, the guts of the machine. But the fact that there's no representation of what power you get if you don't know the fact that, let's see, NVIDIA GeForce GPU 2 gigabyte DDR5 graphics. It doesn't say what GeForce.
Yeah, that's very vague. The rest of them have got a 960. It looks like. Because I clicked, go to Dell's website, and the other 3 versions of the Steam machine have a GTX 960 in it.
Let's see. I'm going to Alienware site, which it really doesn't like Firefox for some reason. Let's see. It actually doesn't say what hardware is in this thing. That is weird.
Yes, it is.
It says the low-end one has a Intel i3 4170T processor, dual-core, 8 gigs of DDR3 RAM, and it just says NVIDIA GeForce GTX GPU, but it doesn't say what exactly. Unless I go to customize, I guess. Let's see. Now I'm determined to find what... It doesn't say what the GPU is in this fucking thing. That is hilarious.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was like a 950 or something like that.
But this is exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, there's really no benchmarks on this. There's no... It doesn't even tell you all the damn hardware in it. So, if I can't figure it out, what's the odds of someone buying this from a console perspective knowing?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just looking through all the...
It does come with a controller, though.
2 gigabytes GDDR5. GTX. Now I'm doing some Sherlocking.
Yeah, trying to figure out which one it is. And they haven't updated this page in a while. Alienware Steam Machine will come bundled with a free bonus content, including complete versions of Payday 2 2005 Game of the Year Edition, coming to Steam OS in early 2016. So, yeah, that tells you how up-to-date this page is. Oh, I found it. It's a GTX 860M.
Oh, so it's not even the full-blown 860. It's the mobile version for...
Yeah, outfitted with a 2 gigabyte NVIDIA GTX GPU powered on the Maxwell architecture. This Alienware Steam Machine performs similar... No, it does. It's not even the damn hardware. It performs similarly to NVIDIA GeForce GTX 860M.
It's probably the 950. I would be really surprised if it wasn't the 950, honestly. That i3 is not awful. It's not a great processor, but it does have hyperthreading, so you get 4 logic cores. So it'll be able to keep up, at least on the gaming front for the most part, unless you get to a CPU-intensive game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not an awful machine. I could build the same machine for less, but, that's the difference in me and someone who just wants to buy something that works.
Yeah, which, here's that's really the problem with this, is that we are not the market, and yet they're trying to sell it to us.
Yeah. The one thing I couldn't do is I couldn't make it that form factor. That is a very small box.
Yeah. Yeah, that is very tiny. And whenever they show the insides, it's all just really compacted down. If I really, really wanted to, I could probably get it in a little bit of a larger form factor, but I don't like building micro ATX.
Yeah, I hate it. I hate building micro.
I prefer mid tower at best, or at smallest.
Yeah, I prefer at least full-size ATX. And if I had the money, I'd go with an EATX. And I wouldn't even like
do simple fact of working on the damn thing.
Yeah, like I wouldn't even do anything crazy with it. Just it's the EATX boards and towers are huge. And I've got big fat sausage fingers, so that would go a long way to helping me build stuff.
Well, the thing is that I don't have as huge of fingers as you probably. It's just the fact that I don't want to be sitting there cussing the damn thing as I'm trying to put it together.
Right.
Oh, well, granted, I would be cussing and bleeding all over anyway, because in order to get a computer to work correctly, you do have to do a sacrifice of blood to it.
You have to make a blood sacrifice and perform the ritual of swears.
Of course. Especially me.
Yeah, I'm building my father-in-law PC, like a media center PC for their Christmas present, and it's going to be micro ATX. I can't get around it. It's got to fit in a small space. Or not micro, mini ATX. So it's not the worst, but like I went the biggest I could go, and it had to be mini ATX.
As a matter of fact, I don't think I've built a computer that I haven't sliced a finger on. Either on the I/O shield, on trying to get something in and pinching a finger.
I always manage to smash my fingers somehow, some way.
No, it's always a cut for me. I'm a cutter, like I say.
Hey-o. Triggered. All right. Well, let's move on to our next news topic, which I had a decent segue to earlier, but it kind of got, we kept talking.
Yeah, we couldn't allow that to happen.
So the segue was as console games become more and more like PC games. And that leads us to our next news topic. Some games run worse on the PS4 Pro than they do on the standard PS4. So
yeah, which I think... sorry, go ahead. I'll get into my thoughts in a little bit.
I was going to say, I heard about this on another podcast, and I looked up just a news article to confirm. And I found it fascinating that a piece of hardware that's more powerful can't play games as well. And then I got to thinking, well, sometimes that happens with PC gaming. You upgrade to better hardware, but it doesn't run the games as well because of optimization issues or incompatibility. And that got me thinking, well, I mean, that really is the next step in these consoles becoming more like PCs,
Welcome to our world.
Yeah, they're so tied into the optimization that you can get from designing for a fixed platform that as soon as you change that even a little bit, it just all falls apart. Even if the hardware is more powerful.
I wasn't going to go with that route. I was going to say that probably a lot of this is tied into that the developers are trying to make their games even shinier for the PS Pro. So they're sacrificing even more performance to try to get that 4K experience.
Yeah.
So they're throwing in all the lighting effects and everything and just damn the frame rate.
Yeah, which this is not in the news article that I grabbed, but in one of the podcasts I was listening to where they were talking about this, they said that even the 4K games that they've gotten to play on PS4 do not perform well because they've, exactly what you just said. They've tried to make them, ridiculously crazy good looking, and it's just clobbered the extra power that the PS4 Pro has over the standard PS4.
Yeah, which I probably should have gotten into on our bubble bursting. That's something else that the AAA game industry should really back off on, is gameplay is king over extremely shiny graphics. You can make your game look good, and then you can make your game look really good and perform like shit.
Yeah.
And that's what these, at least some of these guys seem to be doing.
Yeah. Which, that was the main point that I had to make about this. I didn't have, a ton of things. I just had a couple of thoughts, and those were my couple of thoughts.
It's more sitting there just in awe, huh?
Yeah, I just find it fascinating. Like, PC gaming continues to get easier and easier all the time.
Until the AAA release just completely broken, and you have to wait 6 months for the games to be actually playable, if you're lucky.
Yeah, but with Steam and other retailers that make games easy, and with the increasing power of the hardware, PC gaming is becoming more and more accessible all the time, and I feel like console gaming is going through the reverse. Things are just getting complicated, and stuff's not working like it should. And
well, the main selling point of consoles used to be, plug and play. You turn on the console, put in your disc, and you're playing your game. You don't have to worry about installing. You don't have to worry about drivers. You don't have to worry about patches, and that's gone. You have. Well, let's pick on Dishonored some more. You have an 8-9 gigabyte day one patch on console.
Yeah.
Which, let's admit it, that's going to be most of the game.
8 gigabytes would be a pretty decent chunk of stuff.
And that's more tying into just, these games are being pushed out the door. The gold edition of, the going gold before they're ready. And then they just patch day one and have gigabytes and gigabytes of patching. And that's going to be a real issue as data caps become more common, especially in the US.
Yeah. Data caps suck.
Oh, don't you know it?
Okay, well, do you have anything else to add to the topic, or would you like to move on?
Well, the fact that they're selling this console and just completely floundering it is just mind-blowing to me. And it's something that I think is also going to be pushing the bubble on the console side if they just keep trying to make games overly shiny and just forgoing all gameplay. They're trying to make movies.
Right. That makes sense. Okay, well, let's move on to our next news topic, which is a rumor that the Nintendo Switch is going to retail for $200 or
we're talking about Nintendo.
Pounds.
Everybody's skipping now.
Yeah, for £200 in the UK.
Yeah, boy, that's heavy. Yeah, that's supposed to be a portable console. It's £200, really?
It's designed to help you get a workout. They like you to go places, and now they want you to carry heavy things. Those Japanese.
Well, if they wanted a workout, they wanted to cut out all the motion controls. Sorry. But yeah, that's what, about $250 US?
Yeah, something like that, which is in line with Nintendo's historic pricing.
So that sounds pretty reasonable. Let's see, I'm doing a quick conversion. Right at $250, $249.44. But then again, the US dollar is the British pound has gone way down. Can't imagine why.
Yeah. Neither can I. But, sorry, go ahead.
I was more saying that Nintendo, we'll just go ahead and tie this in, that there's also rumors going around that the new Zelda game may not be a launch title for it. So that's kind of counterbalancing the good news about, or the good rumors about the price. That Nintendo is... I think they're going to be in trouble with the Switch if they're not careful, because they're kind of going all in with it, because they've already killed production with the Wii U.
The Wii U.
And I don't see them carrying on the DS. And the DS is an old platform.
Yeah, the 3DS is several years old at this point.
Yes, it's gotten upgrades over the years, but the DS itself, how long has that form factor been around?
Early 2000s. I want to say 2001, 2002.
I'm looking this up right now. Chat away for a moment.
Yeah, I can't imagine them not replacing the DS with something. Even if the Switch isn't intended to be the replacement, which I think it is, as long as it sells well, they can't keep the 3DS going for forever. That platform is quite dated.
Yeah, the original DS released in 2004.
04, so I was a little bit early, but I knew it was in the early-ish 2000s.
And the 3DS was 2011, and pretty much the 3DS is compatible with everything in the line up to date, right? There hasn't been a reset there?
Nope, there's been a revision on the 3DS. The new 3DS, which is more powerful than the 3DS, but not by much. It added another button, too.
Oh, another button. It's a little nublet. There's a revolution.
It's a little nublet. It acts like a joystick.
Ah.
But it's still not very powerful. There are specific games that only work on the new 3DS, and it falls into the trap of, well, the new 3DS isn't powerful enough to really play those. So they're still not great.
So it's kind of played out 3DS. And honestly, I still don't see... It would be absolutely stupid for Nintendo to release another handheld while they're trying to market the Switch as being a portable game system. Which honestly, the Switch is essentially what they were trying to market the GameCube as, because the GameCube had that handle and it was a very small form factor.
Yeah, but the Switch has built-in screen and some other things that makes it fundamentally
don't
different,
you think that? Well, there was plenty of peripherals that had screens for the GameCube and batteries. So, yeah, it's not too far off. It's just, the tech wasn't there. So right. This is kind of going backwards for Nintendo now that I really sit down and think about the Switch. They're trying again what they failed to really capture on the GameCube.
Nintendo just tries crazy stuff to see if it works.
Nintendo is the weird uncle of gaming.
Yeah. And so far their track record has held for them, but...
Yeah, for some reason, Nintendo shows up dressed as a banana with a pair of bongos to the game convention. No explanation why. And I've just stunned you.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really have any... Don't really have a response.
Yeah, Nintendo's just they do weird things and trying to capture various markets, which really goes back to what we were talking about with the Steam machine, where Nintendo actually tries and succeeds at capturing markets, but the problem is that then they continuing trying to pander to those markets when it's usually a one sale pony, a one trick pony there.
Yeah,
you're not going to. Get the senior citizen to buy a Wii U when they have the Nintendo Wii because they're happy with that. And honestly, they don't understand that, it's a new platform. They look at it and think, oh, it's a tablet for the Wii? We don't need that.
Yeah.
So the Switch is really a gamble for Nintendo, big time, particularly when the Wii U hasn't sold all that well. I haven't heard exact numbers, but I've heard a lot of disappointing sales figures.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see where we're standing in, let's say, about June, a few months after the Switch is released. And honestly, how well it performs out in the field. That's going to be the big thing, the battery life. How well that screen does in sunlight, because LCDs, can... you can get coatings on LCDs so they work well in sunlight, but that adds to cost.
Yeah.
So it's more just how far is Nintendo going to go all in on this, or are they going to go all in on this? And this is just them trying something while they're working on something else in the background.
I don't know if they're working on something else in the background, honestly. I mean, I suspect they've got
Nintendo has to have some sort of
they're doing.
Yeah, Nintendo has to have a backup plan if the Switch doesn't work, because this is a huge gamble. They're trying to go back to the core audience that they've neglected and have, and for the most part, I think moved on, except for the hardcore Nintendo fans.
Yeah. I don't know. I want the Switch to do well. I like the looks of it. As long as
I love the fact that, have you seen people drawing the Switch as a puppy?
No.
Yeah, people have taken a look at the Switch of the tablet with the controllers on the side, and they see a puppy head. And that's become like the unofficial mascot for it.
That's cute.
Yeah, I'm going to go look up a picture of that right now, because you need to see this.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the Switch. I want it to do well. I hope it does well, but I am worried that if this like crazy thing that Nintendo does, because they try crazy stuff, doesn't work, then where does that leave them?
Yeah, here, take a look at this. Hopefully that works.
Yeah.
Now you won't be able to unsee this, by the way. It has a very derp face because of how the controllers are.
Yeah,
but
I see that. That's
now you won't
cute.
be able to unsee it.
That's kind of cute. I like that.
And people have actually made plushies of this thing.
Nice. Okay, well, are you ready to move on to our final news topic?
I think so. It's just Nintendo really needs to shape up. And the fact that, also, really quick, Nintendo also needs to get their game supply lines in check because the little micro retro thing that they did instantly sold out, and they're promising more shipments into December. But let's be honest, they're not going to be able to meet this demand. And I'm worried that that may impact the Switch as well and kill a lot of enthusiasm for it, because that's kind of hit them in the past as well with both the Wii and Wii U. Granted, the Wii was able to just ride it out just because they were tapping into markets that weren't that were willing to wait. But the Wii U people just moved on when they couldn't find one.
Right.
So that's also going to be impacting the Switch as well. Can they actually meet the supply or supply the demand? And I'm not convinced that Nintendo will ever be able to do that.
Well, I mean, Nintendo creates artificial scarcity. They've been shown doing that before.
That's the thing. They're going to try to create artificial scarcity again, in my opinion. And I think it's going to bite them in the ass if they're not careful. Okay, now I'm ready to move on.
Okay, let's move on to our final news topic. Watchdogs 2 removes all its nudity.
Yeah, this is fun.
So
this is something that popped up literally just before we recorded, if you pardon the pun.
So someone looked up, or was reviewing the game, or looked up a review of the game. That's the early stuff, and noticed that there was a dead hooker laying on the ground, spread eagle, and you could see a fairly decently rendered vagina, and everybody in this country just flipped the lid.
Well, the main thing about this is that the uploader's PlayStation Network account was suspended for violating rules against content of adult or sexual nature.
Yeah, well, I mean,
they took a screenshot of a video game.
Yeah, did they post it on PS4?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you go to the news article that will be on the show notes, you'll be able to go to the tweet to see what exactly it looks like. But it's a vagina.
Right. I guess do you have anything to say first?
What is up with nudity in video games, and why do people always go completely bananas about? Well, it's not just in video games, but video games are really a lot worse than television. It's perfectly fine to bash someone's head in with a crowbar, but if you see a penis, everybody flips the fuck out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, gaming, we've talked about this before. First of all, gaming itself, while it is becoming more and more globally accepted, by and large, one of the biggest markets that exists for gaming is the United States, which means that the United States' kind of social norms will help to dictate at least some, of what we show and do in games. Well, I should say in these big games. I mean, you can find dozens, probably hundreds of indie games that show full nudity of men and women, and, et cetera, sometimes in great detail. But secret scenes in Honey Pop, just in case anyone's wondering.
Yeah, but then you run into, even there, isn't that a patch put out by the developer to get around Steam's policies of adult content?
It is. Steam, though, is a US-based company, so They line up with that.
So that's undermining your point for the indie game.
That's true, but you can go get these indie games if you don't purchase them through Steam, because you can get Honey Pop directly from the developer and on a couple of other distribution platforms that you don't require the patch to unlock.
Yeah, the same thing. The bonus Sunday sampler that I did a couple of weeks ago, Sweet Volley Ha, exact same thing. There's a third-party patch on Steam, but there's also a couple of places to buy it that is completely uncensored, and it is very graphic.
Yeah. So, because of a result of that, you tend to get a lot of U.S. ideas entering the mainstream gaming marketplace. And one of those major ideas, for better or for worse, and
it's
personally...
sex negativity.
Yeah, personally I believe it's worse, but that sex is taboo and violence is okay. Which means that in Watchdogs 2, a game where that, you have full reign to do all kinds of awful things to people, murder, causing like traffic accidents and messing with like city utilities and stuff like that, which, I'm like, I guess I'm not like, obviously I think you guys know, but I'm not like parroting like a news type deal, like, oh my gosh, be outraged. But, we have these things and then like someone comes along and renders a vagina and everyone's like, whoa, hold up now. I don't want that awful vulgarity, that nastiness in my game. It's like, but, and there's been other games, even other mainstream games that have done it before.
Well, this is also a mature rated game on top of this.
Yeah. Yeah, if this game was rated E or teen, or, for teens, I would be, all right, you know what? You overstepped your bounds. You shouldn't have put a fully detailed vagina in a game intended for kids, but Rockstar...
Hell, GTA 4 had full frontal male nudity in one of the DLCs.
Yeah. So...
And if I wanted to do a YouTube video on that, I would probably have to either restrict that video or do some heavy editing to it.
Right.
Which, once again, that is a US-based company.
Yeah. So... I mean, the norm in American culture is that sex is not okay and violence is okay. And I think that that's very harmful to us as a people. Sex can be a bad thing, absolutely. But by and large,
I'll even
sex
go
is
further
meant to...
I'll even go further than that and say that the games media has gone way off the deep end on how sex is portrayed in video games, and even... conceived ideas of sexual misconduct. I remember a year or two ago how someone was talking about they were virtually raped in GTA Online because they were teabagged. And there was a lot of articles about this.
Interesting.
So,
but
it's not just how we currently perceive sex and nudity. It's also how regressive some of the games industry views sex and nudity to force this topic even further down the rabbit hole.
Yeah. And it is a difficult line to walk. It looks like they tried and they got called out and they decided to retract it as opposed to stick with it.
And here's the thing. This isn't just, a flasher on the street. This is killing a hooker who is wearing crotchless panties. And that is pretty realistic, in my opinion. A hooker, would have, for lack of a better term, easy access.
Yeah. Yeah. I personally don't have a problem with it. Everybody on here knows how I feel about sex. I think we should talk about sex more and sexuality, and that should be a less taboo topic in our culture in general, in particular in American culture, but in lots of other cultures too. And I'm not upset or outraged that they removed it. I'm certainly not upset or outraged that it was in there. I just kind of, whenever I saw it, I just kind of sighed a little bit, like, well, here we go again. Other games have in it. Other AAA games. LA Noire, for example, had graphic graphic scenes where that you were investigating these cases of women who were raped and murdered, and there were several of them that you found naked that had, given the limits of the technology at the time, it was less detailed vag, but absolutely there was vag in those shots, and nobody, at least that I remember, said anything bad about it, because that was the context of the game. It's like you were investigating the awful murders of these people from these other people who, raped them and left them naked to die. And while that's not exactly what I think is going on in the context of Watchdogs, it's still, people dying is still within the context of the game, period. And for them to show someone who is confirmed to be a hooker, it makes sense that you could see her vagina, and I don't have a problem with it.
I think for this, the difference between LA Noire and Watch Dogs 2 is one word: marketing.
Yeah.
Watch Dogs 2, although a mature rated game, I'm willing to bet it's being marketed more towards the teen demographic. And they're more willing to respond to, a perceived problem because they want to not piss off parents.
Yeah. The marketing for Watch Dogs 2, to me, has felt like, ooh, look at us, we're edgy. We've got a young black protagonist, and he's cool, and we're cool because we have...
remember, it's cool spelled with a K, by the way.
Yeah, but we're cool because we have a black protagonist. Aren't we so cool? Love us, young people, please.
And also, this may also be the difference between Ubisoft and Rockstar as well. Because remember, my example, Rockstar games.
Yeah.
Both of them.
Yeah.
But also, I found it mind-boggling that, PlayStation Network would ban them for taking a screenshot of a game that they allow on their system.
Yeah.
Yes, I realize it is, it's a vagina. But it's also in a game that you've allowed on your system, because these are closed gardens. You don't get on PlayStation without Sony giving the okay to your game. And both Sony and Microsoft, well, granted, their verification is more going down a checklist of, okay, does this game do this? Does it show the logos for our game on these screens? If so, you got to remove those because those are copyrighted. You aren't allowed to show the Sony logo on a Sony controller because that doesn't make sense. But you're still vetting these games in a way. So the fact that the game is allowed in your system, but then you're punishing people for using the game tools that you provide to share a screenshot on a system that you manage is mind-boggling to me.
Yeah.
I think if you take a screenshot in a mature rated game, it should have, limited to mature audiences. And that should be the end of it.
Yeah. Or an NSFW tag or something like that. Not just, you can't do this anymore. But I mean, I disagree with this practice, but Sony does have in their terms of service. It's like, we reserve the right to terminate your account for any reason.
All these systems have that in their account. Steam has it in their EULA. The Steam could say you're dead to us and delete your account, and there's really not a legal thing you could do about it because you agreed to it in their EULA.
Right.
Which, that starts to get into the legal side of things and how the legal side hasn't really caught up to the practical side yet, and Kyle is probably salivating at the idea of that audio letter.
Yep. Probably is. I don't have anything else to add, I don't think. I feel like I've said my piece about it. And again, this kind of retreads certain specific ground from many previous discussions of mine. So unless you have any more specific questions for me, I think I've said all I have to say about it.
Well, it's more coming down to just how games are marketed in general, how the general idea of the gamer, even though the demographics don't support it, is still, let's say, teenager to early 20s, but heavy emphasis on anyone under 18. That's a lot of the marketing. That's a lot of the preconceptions of the gamer. When honestly, the average age of the gamer is in their 30s. They're me, really.
Yeah.
All right. And it's just coming down to the image of what video games are and what is acceptable in a video game. Because, if there was a movie that, had a vagina shot in it, there may be a little bit of outcry from the aggressive people, but I don't think a lot of people would give a damn if the movie was rated properly. If it was an R-rated movie, there wouldn't be a lot of outcry. And the fact that a mature rated game has a vagina in it, it shouldn't be an outcry, but because of how video games are viewed, and the fact that, oh no, the children may see a vagina. It's just so stupid.
We all came out of a vagina, folks.
Hey, I didn't. I was cut out. I was aborted. Remember, Trump said that I was aborted.
Right. Okay, fair enough. I suppose you could be born by C-section or some other medical necessity, but most of us came out of a vagina. They're fine. Don't worry about it, people. That's all I have to say about that.
Thank you, Forrest.
That's all I have to say about that.
So, shall we move swiftly along?
Yes.
Speaking of Trump.
Let us move swiftly on to Community Corner, where this week we have one audio letter from Ghost Shark, which I will warn everyone is mostly political. It's not quite 5 minutes long. Probably 3 minutes of it.
It's I'd say half and half of political and agree-a-thon.
Yeah. So, I'll go ahead and play that right now.
Hey guys, it's Ghost Shark here. So, this is kind of relevant with what happened last week. And I know you guys have vented about it already, but indulge me a chance to kind of do the same for a minute. I like to think I'm pretty open-minded. At least recently. Years ago, I was pretty hardcore on the right, but because of certain things that happened, it kind of caused me to distance myself from certain groups I was a part of. I won't get into it too much because it's kind of a long story, and I know there's some of you guys that I've talked to about it before, so... but it seems kind of like fate is kind of forcing me to take a side nowadays. Never mind the fact that I picked a loser 3 times running. Never mind the fact that there hasn't been a Republican candidate I could really get behind in well over a decade. Now, my slow shift in the other direction has been accelerated by all the self-righteous chest-thumping and cheering going on from one side, just like they elected the next man that could single-handedly bring about the second coming of Christ. Before I get too angry and bitter, just let me say that I'm not mad at every single Trump voter in the nation like some people are touting that they are. There's lots of people that I know that I've talked to who have valid reasons for why they voted for him. From their viewpoints, I can understand why they went that way, even though I disagree with them. That's how it should be. We should be able to communicate with each other without having heated arguments over every little issue. The divisive nature in our country has to stop. I'm not going to touch on the latent racism issue that's been going on with the election. That's a story for another day. But taking that out of the equation, when I hear people from both sides of this political spectrum talk, I tend to hear similarities in what they stand for and what they want. It'd be hilarious if it wasn't so maddeningly frustrating. If some people could just break out of their echo chambers from time to time and listen to a fresh perspective, they might learn that they have more in common with their enemy than they thought. And there might be some dialogue to be had. That kind of brings me on to my next topic, since my blood pressure is already up. Last week, you had to bid on RimWorld Sexist Code. Now, to be honest, I'm firmly in the camp that this is nothing more than a hyper-feminist hit piece. So, hashtag agreeathon on that note. However, I guess now is about as good a time as any to let you in on a secret that, while I'm not exactly a card-carrying feminist or anything like that, there are a few of them that I follow, and I do respect their opinions most of the time. Before you ask, no, Anita Sarkeesian is not one of the ones I follow. She is definitely way too far on the other side of the spectrum. While I tend to believe that sometimes a little extra push for fairness or representation is warranted, usually militant over-the-top reaction to any perceived slight is exactly what isn't needed. Whether it's in the gaming industry or, I don't know, maybe politics in general. See, I look at the whole games journalism, Gamergate thing as kind of a microcosm of modern society anyway. Both sides of the argument tend to have people trying to scream the loudest while having their fingers in their ears, all while being surrounded by people who enable them instead of calming them down and preaching for reasoned speech. As I said above, people I tend to listen to on both sides of the issue, because I tend to listen to people on both sides of the issue, I tend to hear similarities on both groups that would be that I find maddeningly frustrating. Where am I going with all this? I don't know. The whole thing was just going to start as a quick jab about the election before moving on to other subjects, but you can see I'm kind of passionate about the topic, I guess. Maybe next week I'll make more sense, but, once I have a chance to cool down a bit. We'll see. Now, I guess that's going to be it for now. I'm going to have to go. Yeah, I can't even talk straight. So, I'm going to go flip a coin. Why do you ask? Well, for stress relief. I need to figure out whether I'm going to go punch something or binge on cute cat videos. Given my mood now, I'm honestly not so sure which would make me feel better. Anyways, this is Ghost Shark signing off.
All right, thank you, Ghost Shark, for your contribution to the show. As always, we greatly welcome you and anyone else who wishes to send us in letters, be they text or audio.
Yeah, I know it's going to be late, but I think you should go binge on cat videos.
Yeah, I think so too. Do you want to bring up the subject of politics again, or do you want to just acknowledge that...
You mean the God Emperor Trump?
Yeah, that.
If you really have anything to talk about, I will say that things have gotten crazier and crazier to the point that I wonder what the fuck.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand being upset. I was upset about it. But the level that some people are going it's just mind-boggling to me.
Well, I don't think Ghost is that level of upset or that
No.
level of
I'm not accusing
unrestrained.
Ghost of that. I'm talking about some of the protests. I saw a cry-in at a university where they were literally sitting and crying in the lobby of this building.
Right. That's a little much for me.
Yeah. How they're having to have sessions with Play-Doh and Disney movies to placate people.
Yeah.
Now, granted, sitting around watching Disney movies, not a bad idea for a movie night, but, people are that triggered by Trump. I mean, really?
Yeah. I want to say, Ghost, just acknowledging your pain. I mean, I've heard that from a lot of people this week. Sounds like while you're open-minded, kind of perhaps socially progressive, but fiscally conservative, which is kind of how it gets divided up. That's okay. I totally still understand being disappointed in Trump. And, the VGL community came together and everybody supported me, and I in turn helped support those who were in need. So everybody this week, just, give everybody some words of encouragement. I know some of you have my phone number. You can text me. I'll text you guys. Post them on Twitter.
I'll just call you in the middle of the night, randomly.
I will be sleeping, and if you call me and wake me up, I will come find you and murder you. Hardcore. But, anyways, yeah, just everybody be positive to each other this week and next week and the next week and so on and so forth. until all of these feelings have not necessarily like left us, but are no longer riding on our backs. You know, I took a lot of time over the weekend to self-care from dealing with people coming in. You know, I probably had 7. I
mean, I fully understand why some people are taking it very heavily, but then there's the people that are taking it way too much that don't have a reason to take it that seriously. Yeah. That's what I'm more talking about.
Yeah. But self-care, guys. That goes double for you, Ghost Shark.
Ghost Shark that there needs to be talk about from both sides. I completely agree with that. The problem in the media is more we're focusing on the extremes on both sides.
Yeah. I will say, Ghost...
It's not as bad as television would have you believe. At least I don't think.
Yeah.
The problem is that, what's going to get attention? The fact that there's a crying at a major university over the election of Trump, instead of people just going, well, I guess that's how things are now.
Yeah. I had a train of thought and I just lost it. Where was I going? What was I going to say? Where was I going with it?
Oh, I successfully derailed you. Again.
Yeah, it does. I don't remember it. It's fine.
So, shall we move on to the Agree-a-thon?
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like games media in general has really moved into the regressive territory where it's very gender politics based in the extreme areas of feminism. And that's why we see hit articles like we talked about on RimWorld. And yes, Ghost Shark did mention Anita Sarkeesian. And boy, there's a rant that I can make because, she pisses me off.
Yeah.
It just seems like every time I see something about her, it angers me.
She doesn't piss me off. I actually sub to her on YouTube and watch her stuff sometimes. Like, I don't agree with her.
It's a fact that how wrong she is about so much.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't agree with her.
Provable facts.
I don't agree with her, but I think it's important to have people that you disagree with who, for the most part, can be respectable or, respectful and, speak in a way that you're able to understand and maybe relate to them even just a little bit. And I feel like she is someone who does that for me. So I mostly just watch and engage with that just to have something that disagrees with my general worldview, because I think it's important to be challenged.
A lot of what angers me about her is how much she cherry picks and how much she, if not distort facts, gets things completely wrong.
Right.
It bases her arguments on that.
Right.
That's what gets me.
And I mean, that's fair, and I agree with you. But to her, at least I would hope that she believes what she is telling us.
I'm not 100% convinced of that.
I hope she is, because if she's not, then that means that she doesn't actually...
That she's a charlatan.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't want that, but...
And considering that some of her talks actually contradict, I should say, what she said in the past, I'm leaning more that she's a charlatan, or at least she was and has drank her own Kool-Aid. And I'm not sure which it is.
Right.
But let's get off that, because there's a rant building up there that sure. I don't think I really want to go into, at least today. That's something I'd want to prepare for. But more getting into just the games industry in general, or the games journalism in general, how they do have these hit pieces, and that's why I will do archives to certain sites and focus on other sites. Trying to just avoid all the nasty hit pieces that, honestly, I don't want to talk about most of the time. RimWorld was more of an exception to the rule, just because it's something that I was familiar with, and I knew just how wrong they were.
Right. Right. Tonight has been a night for me to like get all riled up and talk about stuff. I mean, I haven't like gone on like any crazy rants, but I've been very opinionated tonight. You know, again, like I've said before, anyone who wants to talk to me, ask why I feel the way I do, question me.
Am I going to have to get the word of the week prepped?
Nah, you still just give it later. But, you know, anyone who wants to talk to me, feel free to do so on Steam. I usually have one or two people I talk to every week. And it
I think you're going to be proud of the word of the week this week, by the way.
Good. Looking forward to it. But, you know, people just kind of shuffle around and talk to me. We talk about all kinds of stuff. So,
I'm just going to have to annoy you more.
Do so. You're just going
to have to annoy you more on Steam now.
Oh, I mean, you could. I would talk to you too.
I mean, it's not like we sit here and talk for 3 hours plus weekly, and then several hours during streams.
Nah. All right, are you ready to move on to? Well, no, I guess we have tweets.
Yeah, we have tweets. We already covered the question of the week, so I'll just skip that. And first thing first, we can never trust the B team together again because of all the food pictures. Because they finally revealed, it was basically chemists sharing recipes and Kyle, saying we should put this on the Twitter and confuse them.
Nice. Yeah, it was funny. That was funny.
I was trying to figure out, okay, they're tagging this question of the week. What the hell did I say to trigger this?
Yeah.
And let's see, Chemist is all for bringing the A and B teams together for an anime show, and we'll call it the Boob Team.
Oh, it's kind of a struggle to laugh. It makes me want to cough, but that was worth a good solid chuckle.
A sensible chuckle.
Indeed.
Let's see, Kyle. No, I would have to use Facebook more in order to get into Facebook games. I have a phone to play my clickers and whatnot. Referring to the game room that Facebook is starting up, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
See, Kyle also said, I will say that Blops is not for everyone. Now that you have tried it, I will stop bugging you to play it. Actually, I find that rather hard to believe. I do want to try zombies again. Maybe not as formulaic as Kyle has it down, because he has it down to a science.
Right. Yes, he does. He has everything down to a science.
And I do want to go do the single player at some point. I'm not sure if I'll record it or not, because that could be a decent series. I'll have to think about that one. I'm not sure if it ties into another storyline, though, for Call of Duty, so it may not make a lot of sense to me.
Right. Okay.
And also, I'm kind of already doing a shooter right now, and I already have my next game picked. Yes, I already went through the choosing.
Wow.
So, I have an idea of what's probably going to be on my channel for the rest of the year. Unless something happens that kills... Well, the only series that I'm not 100% sure that will last till the end of the year is Portal 2. And that's just coming down to workshop content. And, what we would want to play.
Right.
Because the Wednesday, Saturday slot has turned into like our co-op. Or at least, if not our co-op, then my co-op. And I just have someone else in.
Right. Yeah, usually Kyle or Chemist. Actually, I think it's usually Kyle.
Yeah,
maybe
usually
always
Kyle. Yeah, it's always been either you or Kyle with your uncle showing up as well.
Oh, that's my uncle.
Yeah, Bob.
From Bob's Burgers?
No, Bob's your uncle.
Oh. Haha.
And let's see, Jim tweeted out an honest video game trailer to us, which I retweeted. Did you see that?
No.
It's, I
mean, I watch a lot of the honest video game trailers.
Well, no, this is, this was from, Crack, I think. Or...
Oh, if video game advertising, or if
yeah,
video game publishers were honest or something like that.
Yeah, pretty much.
I have seen that.
Yeah, that was a little too real for me to laugh at, to be perfectly honest, because it's like, oh, this is like every thought I ever have when I'm watching a video game.
They have a whole series of those on a multitude of topics that are all a little bit too real to be comfortable.
Yeah, and the video game one is Like, this game won't be ready when you pre-order. Hell, it won't be ready when we release it.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, and this is why I'm 2 years behind the curve on AAA games.
Yeah.
And then finally, Lipstick Down was tweeting out some pictures of all the smoke.
Yep.
And and Chemist popped up. I didn't know we had a Brawlhalla fan in the listeners. How was BCX? We should play together sometime. Chemist, calm down a little bit.
Yeah, they do like Brawlhalla. I know that for sure.
Yeah, and Chemist just perks right up, and it's like, ooh, Brawlhalla fan.
Yeah.
But if you want to tease Chemist about Lucky Brawlhalla, tweet out smoky pictures, or just let us know what you think of the Game Club, or really anything else, you could tweet us at VGL Podcast on Twitter, or email us at vglpodcast@gmail.com with really anything.
Yep. And we do mean that. Absolutely anything. I will take a look at it, and I will give you an opinion.
And then forward it to the proper authorities.
Maybe. It depends. All right. Are you ready to move on and talk about our Steam weekly deals?
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, we're sharing one this week. Because, to be honest, the weekly deals kind of sucked.
They were not that great. Yeah, I spent a long time. Well, not a long time, but I looked through the list and I was like, I don't really want to recommend any of these.
Well, yeah, I looked through the list yesterday and thought, ugh. And then I was doing the tweets earlier tonight, and it's like, wait a minute, I never went back to the sales. So we're sharing one, then we have one unique one each.
Yeah. You want to do one, the shared one, and then the other one?
Yeah, let's do the shared one.
Oh, you want to do the shared one first?
Yeah.
Okay. Our shared game was If My Heart Had Wings, which is a visual novel we've talked about on the show before. It is about a boy joining an aviation club and meeting...
Yeah, because the Japanese high school would have an aviation club.
Yeah. And he meets several different girls from the club whom he gets to know and tries to romance, and there are multiple paths, multiple endings based on which girl you choose. I've played about 6 hours of the mobile version. And
yeah, the Steam version. The Steam version is much, much, much longer.
Yeah, the mobile version only contains one storyline with one of the club members, so there's not a lot of variation to it. I mean, it's free, so if you wanted to go try this out, you could get the mobile version for free. But just know you're not getting the whole game. You're getting about 6 hours of the game.
Yeah, which is also pretty truncated of that storyline, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Because typically these storylines are, at least for If My Heart Had Wings, I would say probably a couple hours longer than that.
Yeah. So it's a great game. Great game.
Yeah, it's been on my to-read list for quite a while. I may pick it up this time around. My problem with the Steam version is that it is censored. And there's been some people talking about how there's some issues with the translation, how it's not that great of a translation. I'm not 100% sure if that's true or not. So that's something that you may want to consider. And in visual novels, especially ones that have nudity, sometimes the sex scenes actually move the story along quite a bit, more than you would expect. So maybe the story is damaged because of it. I'm not 100% certain.
Yeah, well, what I played on the mobile version, in terms of, first of all, the translation, it was fine. There was a little bit of a hiccup every now and then, but I think it was came down to more the idiosyncrasy, or is that right? Idiosyncrasies in English.
Yeah.
Like things that just don't translate well. And it's like they would try and make
or even not just translations, but culture things in general.
Yeah, I think at least in the mobile version, that's where the only couple of problems that I saw came from. But then again, it's a very small slice of the overall story, so there could be things that that we didn't notice.
And there is a third-party patch to restore the content and work on the translation a bit more. So if you're not if you don't mind a third-party patch, which I'm not sure if it's 100% yet, I wasn't able to find a lot of information on it, then that is there to restore content and fix potential issues with the novel. I will say, like I said, it has been on my to-read list for quite a while, and I think I did shock Jared that I like visual novels. It's just I don't talk about them a lot because they are hard to talk about.
I was pretty shocked when you came out and was like, yeah, I like visual novels, because
you act like I'm saying I'm gay or something.
Yeah, I do recognize the way I said it. It made it sound like that way, but that wasn't the case. But no, like, you know, I get...
yeah, visual novels are super.
They're fabulous. No, I sometimes get made fun of on the show for liking different types of visual novels, and I'm always like going on about them, and you never say anything about them, and you're like, oh no, I actually like visual novels, and it's like, wow, what a revelation.
Well, I'm able to pick on you for liking certain visual novels because I know the genre. Yeah. Didn't you even think about that?
That's true. That's very true. I guess I got my first hint that you liked them when you put Senran Kagura on the Game Club list.
Yeah, there's actually a couple visual novels on the Game Club list.
Yeah, I think that one was the first one, though.
Yeah, then I remembered another one to put on the list, and that really shocked you.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, are you ready to go talk about our next games?
Well, we should probably cover the price of this.
Oh, yeah, good point. Normally, If My Heart Had Wings is $15. It is 67% off, making it just shy of $5. It's $4.94.
Yeah, so. It's My Heart Has Wings. If My Heart Had Wings is actually on the cheaper end of visual novels to begin with, and that's part of the reason why I haven't really gone too deep into them, because visual novels are expensive in North America just because they have to get it translated, and these are massive, massive pieces of literature that sometimes don't translate well.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to go first with your single?
I'll head out first with my single one. My single pick is the Whispered World Special Edition. This is I don't have the special edition. I have the regular edition. Actually through Telltale. This is a point-and-click adventure in a world a fantasy world where you are a jester who is trying to save the world. It's actually very beautifully animated. It's all hand animated, if I recall correctly.
That is interesting.
If it's not hand animated, it's done very well. There are some issues with it. It's very old school in its puzzle design, meaning that a walkthrough is almost required if you are not very, very good at the genre. Let's put it this way. In the opening area, at one point you have to get a key. And I went all over the place trying to find this fucking key. I eventually caved and looked up a walkthrough. And the key, you had to go into a trailer. You are essentially a traveling clown or traveling jester, you know?
Yeah. This looks like a cool... Sorry. Go ahead. Didn't mean to interrupt.
Well, I'm just giving the solution to this one puzzle because this gives you an idea of what to expect puzzle-wise.
Right.
This key was on the wall of this trailer, but when you opened the door, it covered the key, so you had to go into the trailer and close the door behind you, and then you saw the key plain as day.
Right.
I couldn't tell if you were laughing or pouring water.
No, I was pouring wine.
It's gone to that part of the show.
No, if you remember that picture I tweeted, I had a bottle of wine.
I know.
Yeah, a glass of wine.
Thomas the Tank Engine.
Yeah, poor broken Thomas. My kid threw him across the wheel, and one of his wheels broke.
Oh, he saw the Skyrim version of Thomas the Tank Engine and wanted to make him fly.
Yeah. No, my kid does not watch me play Skyrim. Well, that's not entirely true. I've shown him some things in Skyrim, but it's like, hey, do you want to check out like this village, or do you want to like craft some things? Because Skyrim is a very scary game for children, what with all the zombies and skeletons and dragons and whatnot. So I'm not showing him those things. Yeah, poor Thomas.
But yeah, this, like I said, it is a very beautiful game. There are some people that's complaining about technical issues, which, like I said, I haven't played the special edition, so I'm not certain if they're still there or not, or if they've been patched or what. But very beautiful game, very old school in its design. And at worst, I would say if you're interested in it and you don't want to play it, go look at a Let's Play of it, which I don't have, by the way. Because it is it looks like quite the ride. And if my initial playing of it is anything to go by, I think it would be if you could get your head around the puzzles.
Yeah.
It is normally $20. It is 50% off right now. Bring it down to $9.99, which is right at the edge of impulse buy, I think, for a lot of people. And if you want something that looks pretty different from what is out there nowadays, I think this is a good place to start.
Yeah. And like I said before, it looks really interesting. It looks different, honestly, which is hard to find a lot of times in games these days. So that doesn't necessarily mean it's good.
Yeah, remember, he's a jester, not a clown.
That's a very important distinction for me. Okay, well, my other pick, my solo pick for the week, was Townopolis, which is a city builder game, but it is a very simplified city builder. It does look like a mobile game, but to my knowledge, this is not a mobile port. I think it's just designed this way because mobile
sort
games...
of like Holy Potato item shop or something like that.
Yeah, Holy Potato's a weapon shop or something like that.
Yeah, I remember that having that same criticism.
Yeah, I think it's just designed to be this way for simplicity's sake. But it's a pretty fun game that does have a bit of depth to it in the campaign mode. Or the mission mode, but it's not super deep, super challenging, super crazy like a bigger game could be, like City Skylines or something like that. So it gets the job done. I think it does a pretty good job of getting that job done. So it scored well in its performance reviews, but it's not too overwhelming, and it doesn't take tons of time. Because city builders oftentimes, usually take a long time to build and get running properly. Townopolis you can play in smaller chunks. I wouldn't recommend sitting down for like 2 minutes and playing it, but 5, 10, more than 5, probably 10 to 20 minute chunks are enough to get you going on a free game. And hour-long blocks of time would certainly get you through the game, the story missions, or...
So it is very bubble-like, where it's more pick up and play for a little bit and not, spend hours and hours on it.
Yeah, it's much more friendly to the whole pick up and play sort of deal. And it's super cheap, too. Normally, it's only $4. It's 80% off, so it's 79 cents.
Does it have trading cards? Because you could probably make a lot of that back on it.
It does have trading cards. It's also part of a series. There's Townopolis, Romeopolis, and Megaopolis. Townopolis is their newest or most recent game, and it definitely benefits from the mistakes that they made during Rome and Megaopolis. Megaopolis is pretty bad, but Romeopolis had some improvements, and then Townopolis is a pretty decent game. So, if you're looking for a city builder on a budget and, with a sort of a time crunch in mind, Townopolis might be for you. And those are our Steam Weekly recommendations for this week, which means that now we move on to the portion of the podcast where I get to go first, where we talk about ourselves.
You already went first before.
Oh, I did go first. Do you want to go first here to mix it up, or do you want me to go first?
Sure, I'll go first to really mess up the order of things.
All right, let's mess it up. Let's screw it all up.
Oh, my. So on my channel, well, RimWorld is the big news for this week because this week Oakview is ending. Yes, my second series of RimWorld is ending, which means I'm recording a new series starting next week. And that means a complete reset, a couple new mods added to the mix because I'm absolutely insane and the game isn't running slow enough as is.
Right.
And also new faces because I'm resorting the names list, which if you wish to join the absolute utter madness, send me a tweet on Twitter, Gaming with CR, and I will add you to my name list. Yeah. And what can I say? It's more fun seeing people that you know die than just having random people. Which I might add that, Jared, it's your fault that the Oakview died, by the way.
That's fine. I can accept that.
And if you want to find out just how it was your fault, tune in on, Friday. Because, yeah, that's when the final episodes of Oakview air.
Excellent.
Let's see. But RimWorld will be continuing on. I'm going to stick with Alpha 14 for the time being. I'm very tempted to do an Alpha 15 build. It's still going to be missing. The primary thing would be a lot of the workflow stuff. The work tab that allows me to fine tune a lot more is not moved on to Alpha 15 yet. Yeah. And Alpha 16 is just around the corner and it looks like a big one. So I'm thinking just bide my time with an Alpha 14 build and wait to see what Alpha 16 does. Because it looks like it's going to be major. And if it's as big as it looks, I'm probably going to do a limited mod series for it. Because it looks fun.
Right.
And also with some of the mods moving on from... Well, what's really held me onto Alpha 14 is this one mod that's essentially... Well, if you played Skyrim and know the script extender for it, think of it as essentially that. It allows more complex mods to be introduced in the game about extending certain aspects of RimWorld. I don't understand 100% of exactly what it's doing behind the scenes, but it's that same basic idea. Well... Because that has had issues getting ported to Alpha 15, particularly one bug that's holding it back and just bad timing when the alpha dropped initially that the team wasn't able to work on it initially.
Right.
It held back combat realism, which is just a complete game changer. It adds outfits, or I should say loadouts to the game. It changes all the weapons. It makes weapons a lot more deadly. Getting shot in a organ is pretty much instant death unless you get treatment instantly.
Right.
And it makes it a lot more fun in the Dwarf Fortress sense of the word.
Right.
And that's why I haven't really moved on to Alpha 15 or even really considered it until now. So hopefully now that Combat Realism has a non-community content library version, which is the mod that's been holding everything back, I'll be more willing to move on to Alpha 16 when it comes out. But then again, my RimWorld series so far has lasted 22 and 24 episodes. So, assuming I hold the pace and don't have a stupid early loss, which I almost did with Oakview, then I'm expecting this series to last me to the new year.
Right.
Which hopefully by then Alpha 16 will be out and the mods will be a little bit more stable. And on top of that, let's see. Warhammer 40k Space Marine is going strong. I had my second recording session and I completely forgot a control, which made for interesting times.
Right.
Which that game has very non-standard controls to begin with. So that, it was fun.
Right.
Or at least I hope it was fun to watch. And of course, our series where we're playing Portal 2.
Yep. Love me some Portal.
That's been a lot of fun with us.
Yeah, I really enjoyed doing it. Problem solving is always nice.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Watching as it's rendering, it's like, oh, you idiots!
That means we did a good job.
Yeah, but that's part of the fun of Portal, just in general, is that problem solving and seeing, wait, how did you do that?
Yeah.
And let's see, of course, the Sunday Sampler, which I missed an episode not too long ago, so I'm going to do a bonus episode. And a PR person for I will tip my hand on this. It is another visual novel. If it's, I shouldn't say if it's interesting, because even if it's not interesting, I was reeking across the coals. Because I wasn't particularly nice to Sweet Volley Ha, was I?
I thought that you did okay. You weren't especially mean, I don't think.
I wasn't especially mean, but I wasn't easy on it either.
No, I felt like you were fair.
So, we'll see how that turns out. I may do another, I do want to do another bonus episode. I like keeping up to date on the Sunday Sampler, and that's one of those series that, if I get a couple of interesting games, maybe I should do more than one a week. But it also comes down to time, because, you have to put in the time to play it beforehand. I've turned it into not a blind first impression. So it's more going in, playing it for an hour to 3 hours and seeing what I think then.
Right.
Because if I went into it blind, I would have probably been a lot more favorable to Neptune Flux. But because I played it and understood, okay, these are the shortcomings of the game, I was a lot more harsh to it, but I think it was a lot more fair to people that may be watching that video.
Yeah.
And speaking of watching that video, if you wish to do so, you could check it out over at Gaming with Caffeine Rage on YouTube, where I upload 10 videos a week because I'm absolutely insane. Or catch me over on Twitter, Gaming with CR, where I tweet random things. Today I was bitching about my mouse dying.
Yeah.
And having to figure out exactly what I wanted a mouse for my replacement, because mice, since when did mice turn into Transformers, by the way? Because there's a few I was looking at, fairly cheap ones, because I don't need a $200 mouse. I don't even need a $100 mouse. And there's a few in the, let's say, $30 to $50 range that look like they're rejects from Michael Bay's Transformers. When did this happen? And why wasn't I informed to tell him to get the fuck off my lawn?
Oh, you. All right, does that make it my turn?
I think so.
All right, coming up on my channel this week. Well, last week, after everything that happened, I took some time to just take care of myself. I needed that after having to deal with the constant barrage for many, many days on end. So I didn't do much work over the weekend, despite the fact that I had time and the voice to do so. And that was good. And I'm feeling refreshed this week. And I've already started the script on my review, which is going to be Transport Fever. I feel as if I have...
There's a shock.
Well, I feel as if I've done enough to be able to write the review at 31 hours. So that'll be my review for this weekend. This week I also am going to be putting up the Portal videos, starting those going up.
See, I'm the one that ends up having problems whenever we miss a week.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty current on what we have.
Yeah, and I'm always a little bit behind. But so those are going to start going up.
Well, you are a little behind.
Wink. Those are going to start going up, as well as getting back to things, business as usual with, and I'm suddenly drawing a blank on the name of that game, which is not good. Let me go
Portal 2, Transport Fever.
No. I'm not drawing a blank on those. Creative editing will happen.
Elevator music. Because I'm not 100% sure what you're talking about.
Do.
Lots of creative editing.
Sunrider, my Sunrider series. Things will get back to normal on there. Because I had to re-record the audio for episode 3, and then I got sick and lost my voice. And wasn't able to do that. But now that everything's back to normal, things should get back on track for Sunrider. And we'll be good to go on that. Going back to becoming a weekly series. I've still got some spin tires that I've been holding in reserve. So that's going to start going. And I'm not going to bombard tons of stuff. But I think I'll have one spin tire.
Wait, what's wrong with bombarding tons of stuff?
Well, I got to spread my content out because I don't make as much as you do. So
Yeah, but you also probably have better quality of content.
maybe that's up for debate. But so yeah, there'll be one episode of Spin Tires this week. The review's going to be Transport Fever. That'll be Sunday. Sunriders should go up on Saturday. I'll have the first episode of Portal going up this week as well. And a couple of these videos will be before the podcast releases, and a couple of them will be after. And going forward to next week, it will be more of that. I'm not working on any new special projects. I've just got to figure out what my next review is going to be. But I've got a long list of candidates for that, so I'm not too worried. As long as my voice continues to hold and the fires don't get any worse, making us have to either evacuate the area or me to have to find new lungs on the black market.
Well, next time Groove acts up and doesn't want to do dumb labor, I could always harvest a couple lungs from him for you.
That sounds good, yeah. Why don't you go ahead and do that, please? And thank you.
Anything else you want from him? A kidney, some liver?
No, the rest of me is pretty good. Just my lungs. But I guess my eyeballs kind of suck. My vision's really bad.
Well, we'll just get bionic ones.
Yeah, that would be nice.
And we'll just also put a brain transplant in as well. Just jab something in there so you're not a big a pain in the ass.
Yeah. But aside from the podcast, that's about all there is. Oh, I will say Friday night there will be no stream. So the day that this posts, Katie and I are going to go see Doctor Strange, and Friday was the only day we could do it. We've got a crazy week coming up going towards Thanksgiving. Like every day we have something that's going on. And Friday was the only day we didn't other than my stream. And I was like, you know what? I'm a huge, huge Marvel fan. Like massive. So I was like, you know what? I'll just drop the stream and we can go watch the Marvel movie. So,
yeah, there's your review. Do a review of Doctor Strange.
I could. I've done reviews before back when I used to blog. I would do movie reviews.
Granted, I'm probably not going to watch it because I'm not a Marvel guy.
That's fair. But I might do that. I don't know. Whenever I like to watch movies, like movies are the one thing in my life that I don't look at quite as critically as everything else. And I'm not sure why that is, but I can get away with turning my brain off and watching a dumb movie for a couple hours much easier than I can for any other form of entertainment. Gaming, books, even YouTube videos a lot of times. But movies, just for some reason, occupy this special place in my life where it's like, yes, Michael Bay, you make awful movies, but they're really flashy and they make me feel this warm feeling inside for a couple of hours. And I will accept
Yui
that.
Ball retired.
Yeah. So, but I might do that. I do enjoy critically picking stuff apart, so we'll see if I actually do anything on Doctor Strange, but I might.
Plus, this is also the reason why I haven't had another season of Sherlock till next year.
Yeah.
Not that I'm bitter or anything.
I had one of my clients today tell me that I needed to watch Sherlock, and I was like...
Hey, it's on my list of things to subject you to.
Yeah, I was like, get in line. You're not the first person to tell me that. But,
it's fairly faithful to the stories. I won't say that it's perfect, but because they do change some things to make it fit in the modern world. But it's very intelligent.
Right, and I do like intelligent TV. But yeah, that's everything that's going on for me this week. Where do you usually interject the word of the week?
Whenever you mention what your Steam name is.
All right. Well, then I guess I will start going over where you can find me. If you want to watch my content...
You're wanting to know what this word is now, aren't you?
I am. I'm also a little bit messed up because I went first once and you went first once and we messed up the order and now I don't know what's going on, but that's okay.
Well, that hardly stopped us before.
That's true. If you want to watch my content on YouTube, you can do so by searching for Gaming Psychologist on YouTube. So you can subscribe to me and watch all my stuff. If you want to watch me talk about random things on Twitter, it's becoming less political, I promise, and becoming more right now about weather
and smoke
and local events around town. You can do so by heading over to Twitter and following me at JMA4707. If you want to watch me stream games on Twitch, I usually stream games a couple nights a week. Occasionally things get in the way, like Doctor Strange or illness or whatever, but pretty good about 2 nights a week. You can do so over at twitch.tv/jarthur4707. And if you want to be friends with me on Steam, my Steam username is jarthur4707. I accept all friend requests from all peoples, and I really enjoy conversing with you guys. And my friends list is slowly starting to creep up towards 100 people. So that's nice.
If you wish to let them know exactly what episode of the podcast you've come from, the word of the week this week, in honor of Ubisoft, is Cooch.
Oh, I couldn't hold that one together. Oh, that was great.
Cooch.
My cooch.
Basically, I was trying to think of the funniest slang term I could think of, and there you go.
Cooch it is. All right. Well, I think it's your turn to take us on out.
Yeah, is there any change in programming for this? Since you've kept this as a secret project, even from me?
Nope. This is the last week, I promise. I finally got PayPal to release the funds, so I can pay the people who are going to be hosting our podcast from now on, but that will not take effect until next week. So, but this is guaranteed the last week of us using Internet Archive as our primary delivery method.
And at least we have archives of not only the episodes up to this point, but also our YouTube's active secondary archives should things happen and our feed goes dead, like Kerbalcast.
Correct. But
I guess a final thank you, unless something else happens or,
God, I
the
hope
fires
not.
get closer.
God, I hope not.
Hey, I don't even know what the hell you're doing at this point, so...
That's very true.
Give me some slack here. But thank you to Internet Archive for unknowingly supporting us. And, maybe for last week, I don't know. Hell if I know at this point, because you haven't told me what the hell is going on. But if you wish to help support our transition, at least supposed transition, to wherever the hell we're going, you could do that by sending us a little bit of money at patreon.com/VGL podcast, because it will be greatly appreciated. And we do need to probably work on our support tiers, figure out what we need to do over there now that I really think about it. Because we haven't done a lot to that yet.
Yeah.
There's something else to put on the list, I guess.
Yeah.
And if you wish to let us know exactly what our support tier should be, or, to send us death threats because we've been stalling on the game club and we need to finish our transition to Sean Murray. Or, just any other random things. You could send it over to us at vglpodcast@gmail.com. And it doesn't have to be audio letters. You can send text as well, and we will stumble through them and mispronounce a lot of words. Or just tweet us at VGL Podcast on Twitter. Our website is videogamelogicpodcast.blogspot.com, where you can find the RSS feed, the link to our Discord, and the show notes. That's if you're watching us on YouTube, if you wish to have our RSS feed, or if you wish to use iTunes or Google Play, we are also there as well. Our intro and outro music is On the Ground by Kevin McLeod, and you can find his work at incompetech.com, and has the raspy voice of Jared.
As his lovely music starts to roll across my voice, which is kind of raspy, but not as bad as it has been.
Well, you are smoking the equivalent of how many packs a day right now?
Oh, God, so many packs of cigarettes a day. I'm like a chain smoker at this point. Bye-bye now.
See you next time.
Bye-bye.